Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I think I could speak for all five of us. We really love to see people here engaging with what we're doing. We have a quorum. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you can please join us and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I'm going to open the public forum. The public is permitted to address the City Council on items not appearing on the agenda. Comments may not exceed 5 minutes. In accordance with state law, however, no action or discussion may take place on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. The City Council may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may request staff to report back at a future meeting on the matter. Would anyone care to address the council on an item not on the agenda?
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Justin Howard, and I live on Gopher Flat Road. Gopher Flat Road is a 25-mile-per-hour residential street, but cars routinely travel in excess of 45 to 50 miles per hour. About 12 families, including mine, live on this stretch. Many of us who walk into downtown to, partake in like this beautiful town, parks, Main Street, etc. And many of our neighbors' kids ride bikes as well. We've had multiple near misses pulling out of our driveways. And this doesn't even include the many families that live a little bit further up in the subdivision headed east on Gopher Flat. Children use this corridor to get to the nearby primary, elementary, and high schools. Right now, it feels like we are relying purely on luck to prevent a serious accident, which I know has taken place in the past after doing some research. I respectfully ask members of the council to take some action on this, with some suggestions being: 1, authorizing a speed study, 2, installing some strategically placed speed tables, as it is a 25-mile-an-hour residential zone, and possibly adding some temporary radar feedback signs and targeted enforcement. These are proven, cost-effective solutions. I'm happy to provide some of the data I've collected. After living on Gopher Flat for just over a year, I've been kind of doing my own study on what's happening in other small towns and these kind of like atriums into the downtown. Not asking for perfection, just a safe, predictable 25-mile-per-hour zone for residents, families, and students. Thank you for prioritizing the safety of Gopher Flat Road and our community.
Thank you, Justin. Anyone else have a comment on an item not on the agenda? Can't see over there.
Hello, council. Justin, I hear you. My options and I will pay more attention to. We're up there. Stop to write tickets. We're up there. So we'll get up there more. I understand it's an issue. I've been here 8 years. It's always been an issue up there. Sorry, that's one. I wanted to come and bring to your attention some good news. Recently, it is. There we go. Okay. Recently, Police Officer Daniel Rigo was put in for Officer of the Year in Amador County. It's a pretty prestigious award. We have a lot of officers in this county that do fantastic work. He was put in by our agency. It went to a board, and that board and panel selected Daniel Rigo as the Amador County Peace Officer of the Year for 2025. Very proud of his accomplishments, what he's done for our city. We're lucky to have him. I wanted to highlight really fast, tell you some of the things that he's done on our behalf. And it's pretty astonishing. This last year, Daniel made 733 traffic stops. He made 130 arrests, issued 70 citations, and wrote 178 criminal reports.
That's a lot of work. He was awarded the Mad Mothers Against Drunk Drivers Award for Amador County, along with a couple other officers in our county, and made 22 drug-related arrests. Not only is he very proactive, he's also engaged in the community. If you've gone to our National Night Out, he was kind of the impetus behind that. He was a driving force putting that together for us and did a great job. It was fun the last 2 years he's done it, and I'm looking forward to what he does next year. So I just wanted to take a moment, tell you good things are happening here with the police department, and I'm very proud of him, and I wanted to make sure, council, you knew, and citizens, I want to make sure you knew what he did as well. So that's all. Thank you.
Chief, is there I know when the other gym received it, I went to a ceremony for it. Is that coming up?
It's going to be November 1st, and we'll have tickets on sale down at City Hall. And if you want to join, we'd love to have you there and kind of celebrate not just the Peace Officer of the Year, but the Citizen of the Year, Volunteers of the Year, not just Sutter Creek, but the whole county. And a lot of good volunteering occurs here in our county, and a lot of good police work does as well. So yes, $45 gets you.
American Legion?
Yep. Yep. So
His
thank you.
Facebook blurb and following him a day, like on the beat, is a positive thing as well.
Yeah, he's
That-
got a great personality, and you wouldn't know he was, so active if you just chat with him. He's kind of got that personality that's disarming, which is a good thing. So I'm glad to have him on our team, and I think you guys are too. So thank you very much.
Please forward our thanks and
I most certainly
congrats.
will. Thank you.
Hi, Al Beer, Sutter Creek. I thought I was going to come tonight and talk about something that everybody knew about, but apparently maybe nobody knew about this. There's the greens bin at the fire station that is available to anybody in town and maybe some slightly outside of town. We can drop our greens for free, and whenever it gets filled, it goes away. And then it comes back. Unfortunately, it's going to go away, as I understand, in about 2 months, and it won't come back. Talked to Dominic. He said that a decision had been made, and he did not say it was by Republic. He made it sound as though it was by the county, that this was a luxury that the county couldn't afford anymore. I asked him what it costs. He said $50,000 a year. Don't know. Don't know what the city can do about it, but I'm just here to maybe, since so many residents in town use that, and it's such a nice service that is provided, that if there is something that the city can do in the way of maybe encouraging the Board of Supervisors to pay that bill, that would be good.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Jim, can you follow up with the fire department for us on that?
Sure.
And I'll follow up with the Air Quality Board.
Yeah, I feel like they paid for that at some point.
I'm pretty sure they do.
Yes.
Anyone else have an item not on the agenda? Okay, we're going to move on then to the city manager's report.
Yeah. Hi, council, and great to have a full house. Yeah, I'm pretty sure to Al's point, I'm pretty sure that is the Air Quality Board. And as far as I know, they have their own funding. So I'm glad you brought that up. We'll try to figure out what's going on. So just some quick updates. Again, every council meeting, we do an update according to our city priorities. And our priorities this year were to improve the roadways, to have a sustainable budget, to focus on economic development, to focus on wastewater improvements, and community engagement and events. So in terms of roadways, all the I&I work is done, and we're going through the punch list at this point. I think it was a pretty successful project, even though Old 49 was blocked a little bit longer than we wanted. I think everything went pretty well. So hopefully we got rid of a lot of leaks there. And Dan was at the ACTC board meeting this week. I think they did their final approval. And so it looks like Sutter Hill Road is approved, and we'll be repaving that hopefully next year. And we're going to bring back the bike plan. You guys have passed 2 resolutions. I did look at the resolution that Amador City recently passed. So we can pass a slightly more up-to-date one. We're also going to be going over the striping plan at the next meeting. So it'll be a good meeting to do both of those things.
Hey, Tom, just a quick question before you go on.
Yep.
On the I&I work that's been going on, are we in a position to quantify the impact of what we've done at some point and understand what's left to be done?
I mean, we could quantify like the number of feet of pipe that was replaced. The
Right.
hard part with all this is really knowing if you got all the leaks or not, right? So we do have more data. We do know there's some other places that we need to repair. Those will be for next year.
Do we continue to meter then this winter in terms of,
Well, we did all that data collection,
Mhm.
and so we already know sections that we didn't get to this time.
okay.
So,
Hmm.
and then we did get a grant submitted for the Monteverde store. Again, the floor and the wall there have deteriorated pretty badly. Hopefully we'll find out within a month or so if we get that award. We also posted a RFP for a city auditor because we'd been with the current auditor for the maximum number of years. We have 3 or 4 firms that have inquired about that. So hopefully we'll get some competitive bidding. And then at your next council meeting, we're going to do a budget review, see how the economy is doing, see how the revenue's coming in, and show you where we are on the expense side. And then on the wastewater side, been running into some snags, literally on the Henderson repair. There's the iron pipe is at the bottom of the dam is encased in concrete, and we've been working to get that pipe removed. And then there's the new approach to secure in place that needs to be approved by the Department of Safety of Dams. So it's been going around a little bit. We've gotten some engineering updates. I've asked that everybody kind of talk to each other almost daily so that we avoid any more delays and handoffs between the groups involved. So everybody knows it's a top priority. It sounds like things are moving forward again. So that's good. But you know, with the rain last week, we're kind of running up against the end of the season here. So everybody knows that we need to get this done. And then we're about to start the design meetings for the wastewater treatment plant, and that will be an ongoing process for quite a while. But I just wanted to let you know those are starting.
Hmm.
And then on the economic development front, we are starting our kind of planning around this entrepreneurship center with the grant that we got for that. There's a kickoff event scheduled for October 22nd, which is a Wednesday night. It's going to be at 5:30. Currently, we're planning to do it in the old grammar school. We do want to be able to display slides and things, so we have to figure out the projection there. We may move it into this room, but we'll figure that out. And then there's just a lot of events happening in October in general to support the businesses on Main Street. We have the car show this weekend, the wine walk, the witches walk. And then on some kind of the more day-to-day stuff, community engagement. So I did present the wastewater update to the Amador City Council. That meeting was actually pretty well attended. I think it went well. They asked a lot of questions. Julie and I are going to be out at the Cal City's annual conference towards the end of this week. Will and I, mostly Will, are working on this community wildfire protection plan, which again is a group of mostly firemen in the county, but several cities. And it's similar, I think I told you, to the hazard plan, where just having the plan in place will let us apply for grants and things in the future related to wildfire. And then there's a volunteer night event this week, also on Wednesday in the old grammar school, where a lot of nonprofits are going to be with tables. And so if anybody's interested in volunteering for anything to do to support the city or local nonprofits, it's going to be a great event to go to. We're actively recruiting for our city clerk. And again, I'm going to want to appreciate the work that Aaron has done. It was a short stay, but he did a great job, and we're going to miss him. But he's going to pursue something that he's really passionate about. And then also, I think it was out in the paper last week that says ARC. Sorry, I meant to talk about ACRA, not ARSA. But ACRA is dissolving. And, we were, I think, the last city that actually used them to manage our pool. So I have started talking to the person that manages the lifeguards for the Jackson pool. And I think she'll be interested if she has the time to do our pool as well. So that would be really good. And she knows a lot of lifeguards and she knows the pool. The other part about the ACRA dissolution is the impact fees. They need to divvy those up and they need to do some auditing to
Taking
make
the
sure.
wind out of my sails.
What's that?
You're taking the wind out of my sails
Yeah.
for later.
Well, you can repeat it. It's a big deal. I mean, ACRA's been around since the 1980s. And so they have to unwind a lot of the financial aspect there and make sure they get the accounting right. And then I just wanted to echo my congratulations to Officer Rigo. I think it really is a feather in the cap of our police department. And he's a great officer. And as you heard, he does a tremendous amount of work. And so just to reiterate, the Scarecrow contest is up. You can vote early, vote often, all month. And then again, the car show, the wine walk, and it looks like the Witches Walk is going to be a pretty big event this year. We're going to close Main Street, and I've heard there are buses coming in, and it seems like there's a lot of excitement about this event this year. And then for your upcoming council agendas, the next meeting in October, again, will be the financial update, the striping plan. And then we'd been talking about trenching ordinance. We actually think it's going to be just an update to the building standards, but we'll have that for you guys to look at. And then kind of through the end of the year, we're going to have an update on the police department, talk about our tree planting plan. The Nexus study is getting very close. It's kind of taken a while, but it should get to you before the end of the year. And we are working on contracts for both ARSA and ACRA dissolutions. And then we may have a report from the police finance ad hoc committee as well, I think, before the end of the year. And I think that's it. Unless you have any questions.
I just wanted to take this chance to thank Aaron too and wish him well. So he wasn't with us very long, but I think we all sure appreciated him. He helped us get organized, had a bunch of ideas, an incredibly positive attitude, kept us in line. And he's from the nonprofit world and going back to the nonprofit world to do something that really aligns with his ambitions. And we're happy for him, but we'll miss him. Did anybody have any? Oh. Council, any questions for Tom? Public, any questions from the city manager's report?
Yeah, sorry, that's road striping, crosswalks and parking, red curbs, that kind of thing. It's thermoplastic. Yeah, we have yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, the approval of minutes from September 15th.
I move we approve the minutes from the September 15th meeting.
I just had a comment before we do. I shared with Aaron and Tom. It was my opinion that we flesh out those minutes a little bit with regards to the discussion we had about signing the contract to move forward with the wastewater plant. I understand you can't include everything, but I just think it would be a good idea to include more of the specific questions and answers that were provided, since the discussion went on at length and it's covered pretty lightly, in my opinion, in those minutes. So I would appreciate if we could beef that up a little bit.
I think, yeah, one thing to note is the video record is also the record. And so we do have like recordings of everything that people can watch if they really want.
Is that utilized much?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just, well, that's the complete.
That's the
you know,
go-to.
The verbatim.
If you want the whole deal. It's just, as I read it, I thought, man, this is like the biggest contract the city's ever led. and it just doesn't say much about the conversation.
Yeah, just to say, the standard that we use at the city is summary minutes. So there's three different ways you could do minutes.
Yeah.
Just basically decision minutes that only say what you voted, summary minutes where we give a brief explanation of the discussion, or verbatim minutes. And verbatim minutes are like not at all in practice
No.
anywhere.
No.
So I get your concern, but like Tom said, there is a record of the verbatim discussion that's available to the public. The standard is summary minutes, which is just normally, this is a general, in fact, I tend to be more specific than a normal summary minute, if I'm honest. I know you want more, but and I can give you more. It's your discretion. I'm just letting you know what the standard is.
I appreciate it. I wonder if any other council members have a similar thought or a different point of view.
I think it would be a good idea to have a more detailed written summary, outline of all the specifics and questions going forward. So if there's any trouble that arises, it's easy to access instead of trying to listen to a video, just because of the largeness of the project.
Is there a way to bullet within your summary system the questions, at least that?
So let's take this one under advisement. And I
Okay.
understand the request to be specifically for this one item, right?
That's
Just
Yeah.
because it's such a big item.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
That seems like a great idea.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Aaron.
Thanks, Erin.
Any other comments on the minutes? We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
That's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, we have a couple of items for public hearing here. So we are going to have staff open the item. We'll do them one at a time. Then the council will have an opportunity to just ask questions. It's not our discussion time. Ask questions of the staff and the applicant, I believe. And then I'll open a public hearing. We'll hear everybody. There's a 3-minute limit on the public hearing. Is my microphone working?
It is.
Yeah, I can hear.
Then we'll close the public hearing and the council will have an opportunity. Oh, before we close the public hearing, the applicants will have another chance to speak. Close the public hearing, the council will have more time for questions and discussion, and then we'll make a ruling. I'm just going to remind everybody that these are quasi judicial hearings. Is that right, Derek? Do you want to give us a brief little summary of what that means?
Yes, a quasi judicial, forget the word quasi judicial. We all know there are courts, there are judges. Judges make decisions. Judges make decisions based on law applied to evidence. And so you are a city council. You sit in two different capacities because you also have what's called a quasi legislative capacity. And again, throw out the word quasi. Everyone knows what a legislature is. Legislatures make laws. So you pass ordinances, you pass changes to your general plan. So in some situations, you act like a legislature, you make laws. In a quasi judicial setting, you do the opposite. You apply laws to facts. And in this situation, we have an appeal. Someone is coming to you, you're an administrative body, you don't apply courtroom evidence. So there aren't going to be objections, there aren't going to be rulings from the bench, but you do have to consider any evidence you receive, and you do kind of have to act like judges. And so in that situation, it's a different style of decision-making than if you're deciding what a good zoning ordinance would look like, what a good zoning policy would look like, what any number of policies are where you're acting more like a legislature. So that's, in a nutshell, you're kind of acting like a judge. And so you need to make a reasoned decision based on evidence, based on what you hear, based on what staff presents to you. And it's more of an inductive type decision than it is a policy-based decision that you'll be making.
one further point of clarification, if I might. So Derek, are you saying then that because it's an appeal, our decision is based on existing ordinance and our understanding of that and our understanding of the evidence that will be and has been provided and adjudicating to that existing ordinance? We're not considering whether or not it's right or wrong or fair or whatever else?
Correct. Correct. You're applying our existing rules to the facts that are presented to you, and you're making a decision based on, do the facts match up with those rules? If you think that the applicant or the appellant has presented a case, you should rule for the appellant. If you think that the appellant has not presented a case, then you rule against the appellant. It's different than when you decide ordinances. And, you know, if you decide a zoning policy, you get to decide, is this good for the community? Do I like this? Is this good for the environment? Those are broad policy-based decisions. It's very different than what you're doing tonight.
Thanks for that clarification.
And also, due to the nature of appeals, I have to ask myself and the rest of us if we have any conflicts regarding either of these properties, and also if we have had any action or discussion or information that's not in the packet. So I know we all have had discussions with the public and our neighbors and our friends and concerned citizens, and that's fine. But the question is regarding any actual information about either of these items that the rest of us don't have. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Oh, okay. Did I do that right, Derek? Okay. Okay, so Aaron, were you going to kick these off?
I was just going to kick it off, but you guys did a great job. Yeah, I was going to say a lot of what you just covered. So again, quasi-judicial, we have a lot of people here tonight, so we are going to time, if people could speak, 3 minutes. It's not a back and forth question and answer. Just say your comments. And again, I think you guys, if you guys want to go down, just say I have nothing to disclose, or I did talk to somebody, I did learn something. That's a good practice. And we'll hear them one at a time. So I'll hand it, unless you guys have anything to disclose, I'll hand it over to Aaron.
Okay, thank you. So tonight, the first item before you is an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision at 23 Main Street. The applicant had requested a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental. Our ordinance does not specify or our ordinance requires a conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast establishment in any zoning district. And our practice has been that Airbnbs, short-term rentals are considered bed and breakfast under our code. So they have applied for the conditional use permit. It was heard by the Planning Commission on September 8th, and the Planning Commission was not able to make all of the findings necessary to approve the conditional use permit, specifically finding A, which was that the property is not desirable or essential to public convenience or welfare. I provided a link to the audio recording of the meeting, so if you were able to listen to that at the meeting, there were neighbors in discussion and had some concerns about the appropriateness of the short-term rental in that location. At the meeting, staff did recommend that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for the short-term rental, as staff believes that the findings can be made. Additionally, they have the required parking for the short-term rental, which is 3 parking spaces. Our requirement is 1 parking space per bedroom. The house is 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. They're providing 3 parking spaces. It is located in the R1 zoning district. The exterior appearance of the home will not be changing if it does convert from, I believe it was a long-term rental before, and they are converting it to a short-term rental. And the applicant, I believe, is here, and they had some reasoning and behind why they are converting it from a long-term to a short-term rental. But the exterior appearance of the home will not change. I know that because of its location on our main street, there was some concern about, the beautiful homes along Main Street, and At this time, they're not proposing to change the exterior appearance. The the use is still consistent with the general plan and zoning because our zoning ordinance does allow for short-term rentals with a conditional use permit. And staff, like I said, believes that you can make the following findings to support approving of the conditional use permit. And the findings are the proposed use of the property as a short-term rental is desirable to the public convenience and welfare by expanding visitor lodging options and supporting local tourism and encouraging economic activity within the city of Sutter Creek. The proposed use will not impair the integrity or character of the surrounding neighborhood or the R1 zoning district. The property retains its residential appearance and use and will be compatible with the adjacent properties. The proposed use will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. There's off-street parking, and there is also additional conditions put on this as a short-term rental, including the number of guests that can be there and parties, noise, things like that. And if there is an issue with that, the city does have the ability to pull a conditional use permit if they violate any of their conditions. No new infrastructures or off-site improvements are required, and the proposed property is in harmony with the various elements and objectives of the general plan by preserving the historical residence, maintaining neighborhood character, and promoting a balanced mix of housing and visitor accommodations within our downtown. So that is kind of wraps up my staff report, and staff recommends that you conduct a public hearing, take public input, hear from the applicant, and then if you choose, I have attached a resolution which would approve the conditional use permit with the standards conditions of approval for short-term rentals for the property located at 23 Main Street. So I can answer any questions you might have about this application.
I have a question that actually pertains to both of them. There's some discrepancy here. The parking, it says, I think I marked 5 different places. Parking space per guest room plus 1 space for each 5 or less guest rooms. That's throughout the ordinance on both, which would require 4 parking places. I believe both of these houses have 4 parking places, but we need some clarification, and I think there's an error on here. It's worded a little differently. It says here, parking space per guest room, 1 plus space for each 5 or less, and then it's on pretty much every page, actually. But I read that as 3 plus 1 equals 4.
Where is?
Anybody
So
can
what
beat me to-
transient occupancy buildings, which that's what this would be, right? And our per code is 1 space for each guest room plus 1 space for each 5 guest room.
So that makes 4.
Okay.
That's also, it's again on page 25. It's in several places.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I was thinking when it was 5 or more, you would have 1 more.
It is confusing, and so I think we need to clarify it.
Yes, so that the standard in all of the short-term rentals that I have processed in the 2-3 years I've been here has been the 1 per guest room. And then when you hit over 5, then you would add 5 plus then 1 more.
Oh, so if you had 4, it wouldn't be 4. It would still be 3. And
No.
only when you got to 5 would it be 4.
No, it would be 4 at 4. Right, that's,
I'm not kidding.
yeah, when you hit 5, it would be 6.
Thank you.
That's how we've always processed them.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we need to clean that up because that's not
We can discuss that a couple items down.
Absolutely.
how it reads.
We can discuss a lot of this.
Also, I just wanted a refresher. I know last time we talked about this, we added to the conditions the requirement for insurance. And it's here on item 5, provide the city with proof of insurance. I remember our discussion was when we were talking about, you know, if you rent the grammar school for a baby shower, you need a $5 million liability. So what insurance is required?
We have had one person submit their insurance to us, and it was a short-term rental insurance. She was able to find that through an insurance broker, not locally. I
So
don't-
we have it for one of the 20 short-term rentals?
Well, this has only been a condition of approval on a handful of short-term rentals.
It was a relatively new condition that
Yes.
was added,
Yep.
what, a couple of months ago or something?
Do you have it for both these applications?
The insurance?
Applicants?
No, they have not provided us with their
Okay.
insurance yet, so
Yeah,
it's something,
It's not required for the
no.
application for it.
No, but they would need to provide us with that before we issued them their permit or their business license. So they could not start operating without that.
And then my only other question from the staff report, the planning commission couldn't make finding A and then I believe also B, C, and E. Is that right? You mentioned A, but I think there were
So
four.
it's what within their motion that was the one they chose to say they couldn't make in their motion, but there was discussion of all of them.
Well, we have an opportunity, if there's someone here tonight from the Plan Commission to be able to address this.
Yeah,
on the
it's
CV
suggested to do
part.
that as part of the public comment. You can have a representative from the planning commission speak.
Okay.
Any other questions, not discussion questions from council for staff? I think I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing then. So just a reminder, it's a public hearing. You have 3 minutes to speak and we're not going to reply to each thing. We're going to take all of your information and consider it when we have our discussion. And please give your name.
My name's Kenny New. I live at 19 Main Street. Not that it matters. We lived in Santa Cruz. I've been through this. And it was terrible for the neighbors. I know we want to be against partying and everything, but that's what it's going to be. I worked my whole life to move back here. My mother was born here. All my cousins live in this town. I've been coming up here my whole life. I'm 63 years old. Finally got out of my company, sold it. First thing I wanted to do is move to Sutter Creek. My wife said she wanted to live on Main Street. I never thought I was going to be able to do that. And the house came up, made a deal, and we got it. Myself, my neighbors that are here tonight, those houses, like it says on the sign at Sutter Hill, it's a jewel of the mother lode. Everybody knows those houses where we live. And that's the truth. Everybody looks at those houses. People come here, they're in front of our house taking pictures every weekend, okay, which is cool. We have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make those houses look good, to decorate every holiday, to be a part of this community, okay? All of us are really into this town, and we know where we live, and we know those houses, okay? We take care of them. All the time, okay? So we take that to heart, to be a part of this community, to decorate, to do whatever, every holiday, everything. I personally, I don't want a VRBO or bed and breakfast or anything 2 doors down from me. Okay? If I would have known that before, I wouldn't have bought it. That's how bad of a situation we had in Santa Cruz, living near the beach. I think you really got to think about these houses. and the amount of money that we put into them and care about this town. Okay? Just for a short-term rental. Long-term rental, I'm okay with that. Everybody rents. We all rented houses at one time. We get lucky, we work hard, we buy a house. But I don't need a party house. And everybody here can stand up and say it isn't going to be. And how do you know? You don't know. We don't want it. Everybody on that street. So that's what I got to say. Thank you.
That's apparently our new timer.
I apologize. When we read the rules, we thought we had 5 minutes, so I'm gonna leave you a written copy if I may approach.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm gonna try to do my best to pare this down.
Speed read.
I didn't see that it popped up then.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Quentin Taylor, and I share the property line just to the south of the applicants. And we request that you deny this appeal. Main Street is the face of Sutter Creek. Homeowners here have invested substantial time and money and effort into preserving and restoring these historic properties, maintaining a sense of pride and tradition that benefits the entire town. Allowing short-term rentals has the potential of undermining that shared investment by shifting the street from stable resident-based community into a transient environment. Research in other communities show this erosion of neighborhood character due to transient occupancy. It reduces housing availability, potential property devaluation, and public safety concerns. What Sutter Creek truly needs is more long-term rental housing. Families, workers, and retirees continue to struggle to find available housing in town. Converting residential homes and short-term rentals reduces this already scarce supply, making it even harder for people with long-term ties to remain part of the community. For this reason, I respectfully urge the city to prioritize the long-term health, stability, and character over Sutter Creek over the short-term profits of a single property owner. Furthermore, I again respectfully ask the council to consider that its own planning commission unanimously declined the application. And contrary to the applicant's appeal, they stated on the record that this was the largest turnout of opposition they had ever seen. The applicant was in the meeting, heard the commission statement, and listened to all the appeals denies we did. I assert that the appeal itself is proof that the LLC does not have the best interests of their neighbors, neighborhood, or community in mind. The LLC then states that they want to support the community through tourism. My common sense tells me otherwise. If you are inclined to approve the applicant's request by classifying this property as a bed and breakfast, a designation that does not accurately reflect the proposed use, I urge the council to stop and reconsider the decision before moving forward. Main Street is not just a row of houses. It's a living part of our town's history, a place where families invest and care for one another and preserve what makes this community special. Allowing a commercial short-term rental here risks changing that balance permanently. It threatens the character, the stability, and the property values that every homeowner has worked to protect. This is not just about one property. It's about setting a precedent that will shape the future of the neighborhood in our town. Please delay this decision for at least 8 to 12 months to allow the community to be heard, for the city to evaluate the true impacts, take time to analyze data on how this change could affect character and property values, and engage a broader cross-section of the community, including nearby homeowners and local hotels, inns, and bed and breakfast operators. A transparent, evidence-based, and clearly written ordinance defining permitted lodging uses will help protect the residents' interest and preserve the integrity of our town's historic Main Street, not just one applicant. I ask you to allow the time for meaningful public input and careful evaluation that serves the interests of all residents. And I'm sorry, I tried to read that as fast as I could. And Tom, I think you're doing a
Thank
great
you.
job. Appreciate all that.
Thank you, Quentin.
I'm Terry Taylor, the other half of, the other half at 25 Main Street. And members of the council, I respectfully request that you uphold the Planning Commission's decision to deny a short-term rental permit for the property at 23 Main Street. My comments today are intended to directly address and refute several of the assertions made by the applicant in her appeal. She noted limited opposition from neighbors. The claim that there was only limited opposition from neighbors is misleading. The lack of broad community response does not reflect support or indifference. It reflects that the community was never notified that a short-term rental was being considered. The Planning Commission is only required to notify residents within 300 feet of the property, and even with that narrow radius, we live directly next door and were not notified. Many homeowners on Main Street and in the surrounding area were unaware that the discussion involved converting a residential home into a commercial short-term rental. Had the broader community been informed, the level of concern and participation would have been far greater. The limited record of opposition is therefore a result of limited outreach, not limited concern. Another assertion made is that the short-term rental will align with Sutter Creek's tourism-based economy. The argument that adding another short-term rental aligns with Sutter Creek's tourism-based economy overlooks the reality that the city already has more than sufficient lodging options. There are currently 20 active short-term rentals and 8 established hotels, inns, and bed and breakfasts within city limits. Out of personal interest, my husband and I visited 6 of those inns during Wine Crush weekend, one of the busiest tourism events in the Shenandoah Valley, and found that of the 6, 4 had vacancies. This demonstrates that existing lodging capacity is not being fully utilized, even during peak visitor periods. Adding another short-term rental is therefore unnecessary and risks diverting business from longstanding local inns and bed and breakfasts that have invested heavily in serving our tourism economy under appropriate commercial zoning and regulation. Rather than strengthening local tourism, and oversaturation of short-term rentals threatens the viability of these established businesses and undermines the balance between tourism and residential life that defines Sutter Creek's character. I just want to skip ahead that the Sutter Creek zoning ordinance lists bed and breakfast inns as a permitted use, and the definition clearly implies a proprietor on site providing lodging and breakfast. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, a bed and breakfast is a room to sleep in for the night with a morning meal, typically in a private home or small hotel. The applicants are not proposing to operate their home in this manner. Their plan does not involve an on-site proprietor, nor the personal hospitality-focused operation that defines a true bed and breakfast. Classifying this property as a bed and breakfast misrepresents the proposed use and circumvents the intent of the ordinance.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jeff Poole, and I own 21 Main Street and 16 Bryson. I moved up here 4 years ago. Love the town. Love you guys. You guys are great. Thank you for doing a great job. I live 10, 15 feet from 23 Main Street, and my biggest concern is not having a neighbor and having a lot of extra noise pollution when I got away from that, moving my business and myself from Oakland. And having that would create a lot of problems and potential anxieties and whatnot. And so I'm asking you guys to vote against this. I don't really want to, have issues where, I have to call the police for noise pollution or, talk to Mr. Cole about different issues. And I am an insurance expert, and being a CEO of an insurance company since 1998, I would really appreciate if you guys really looked at what our community is valuing here on Main Street. We love this area. We love our neighbors. We want long-term people there. We sit on our front porch and have wine and talk to each other and have a great time. You have people that come in a couple of days, cause a lot of ruckus, and it's just sorry, I'm very emotional, but it's a concern, and I hope you guys listen to us and understand where we're coming from. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pete Jensen, 23 Nickerson, and my shop is on Badger Street, right off of Main Street. Been here for 35 years. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. A short-term rental, is this your primary resident? The people who own this place? Is it your primary resident? To be a short-term rental, it has to be their primary residence. That question needs to be answered. Was that question answered? Yes, was that
Residents or
question
not?
answered? Oh, you can't answer questions?
So, no, just a point of order. I understand what you're doing. You need to direct the council. Please direct all comments to council. If
Okay.
council.
Was that,
One second. If, I just for your sake and everyone's sake, if after all comments are over, the council wants us to answer questions, they will direct that and they will do that. So please give them that opportunity.
all right. I have a question for everybody here, okay? Where are you from? Where do you live? Where do you live? I'm asking you guys too. We pay your salary.
But this is a public hearing, so you direct your questions to us.
Susan, where do you live? Do you live in downtown Sutter Creek? Or do you live off the side of it?
Are we waiting till after to
You
respond?
want to go ahead and give your remarks and we'll respond at the
My
end of the
remarks
public hearing.
is, this town and this place here is a very special place. We all work, as everybody said, very hard to make our properties look beautiful for the tourists to come in. Now, short-term rentals, I've seen it before, that's Party City. You know, do we want that on Main Street? Does the chief of police want every time I hear noise or I see something wrong, I call the police and make myself a nuisance that way? This needs to be put off to side and it needs to be looked at in a much better way than what we're just doing right now. 3 days to figure this out? No, thank you.
Byron Damiani, Sutter Creek. I'd ask the council to support what the Planning Commission decided to do in denying this request. The one thing that hasn't really been brought forward is this is in the historic district. This is Main Street. It's not just the downtown historic district, it's in the larger historic district. That was something that was very much looked at by the commission when they were evaluating this. I think one of the issues we have here is saying they're finding that it's consistent with single-family use zoning is a little bit of a disingenuous argument. The only reason it's consistent is because the ordinance made an exception to single-family use homes for this type of activity. The problem is you're pounding a square peg into a round hole. This is a residential area. It's the most historic residential area in the city, and you're trying to put a commercial operation in the middle of a residential area. And if it was just a matter of checking off boxes like a building a permit request, well, they have insurance, they paid the fee, they did all the things, we should just approve this. The reason we don't do that, and it goes to the commission each time, is you are trying to put a commercial activity into a residential area. And that's why the commission looks at it every time and why the city council should evaluate these on a case-by-case basis, not just a blanket. They made an application, they paid the fees, they checked the boxes, we should approve. Each one of these gets looked at carefully. This is probably the most egregious example of having one dropped into the middle of the most historic area of Sutter Creek where the residences are maintained. It's not an appropriate use for single-family residences. It won't be used as a single-family residence. You're making an exception to the nature of the community in order to put a commercial activity there. The commission decided that was not appropriate, and I hope that the council supports that decision, supports what the commission did. They had an extensive hearing on this. There were lots of people commenting, lots of evidence on it, and the commission, this council should support what the commission has done in this matter. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Robert Trudgeon, Main Street of Sutter Creek. I have a few disclosures I should make first. One is that I am a member of the Planning Commission, although I was not present at the meeting when the present home application was denied. I also live about 600 feet from that home. My understanding regarding my position on the Planning Commission is that I would have a presumed conflict of interest if I was within 500 feet. So I figured I was close enough, I better at least mention it. I also have a sentimental connection to the home. It's property that was originally settled by my great-great-grandfather. It extended all the way from 17 Main Street up to 23 and all the way behind to Dennis. And as generations of the family had more kids, parcels were sectioned off. And my great aunt Carrie and great uncle Alfred built the home that's currently being considered. So all of that may or may not provide a bit of a conflict of interest on account of the fact that I'm on the Planning Commission. So I wanted to lay all that out. And if there's an objection to me speaking further, I can step away, but otherwise no.
Well, sorry, you are a citizen, so you have every right to speak, even if you're a planning commissioner.
Fantastic. Thank you. A qualification, I guess, to that response is that my address to you really comes as a member of the Planning Commission, and some of that is a bit of frustration with the guidelines as they're currently set. I've only been a member of the Planning Commission for, I don't know, 5-6 months, something like that. And every single meeting I've attended has included a petition for a short-term rental approval. I know at least one of those. Councilmember Seark had an objection to a rental that was, I think, adjacent to her property. And so we had to disclose that and make that a consideration as part of our discussion. But one thing that was consistent every single time one of these came up is the frustration of the Planning Commission itself is that the rules, the guidelines are not very specific. They don't provide a lot of real clear guideline for us to consider. Namely, there seems to be a wish by the city that there's about a limit of 20, but that's not codified anywhere. That just seems to be something that everybody talks about, that there's supposed to be a limit of 20. When I first came on, I think we had 18 or 19. Now we're somewhere around 22 or 23. And I think every time we've considered it, we thought, well, it's not really in the rules, so it's not something that we can consider, which leaves us kind of with a fallback under sections B and C, and that's whether it impairs the integrity of the surrounding neighborhood and whether it's detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare. Having not been at the meeting, but having read all of the proposals, I would presume that the Planning Commission's ruling was that it was somehow not conducive to the general welfare, or that it did somehow impair the character of the surrounding neighborhood. But that's a pretty vague concept.
Robert, just to mention, I'm giving you an extra minute because you spent the minute explaining your
Okay, appreciate that. So one last point or consideration I'd ask you is perhaps ask City Council in your consideration is, what is your standard of proof? I didn't really hear that explained. Whether is there a presumption that the Planning Commission got it right and that you have to make some kind of finding either by preponderance or greater than that to overturn it? Or do you just simply look at the whole thing and make your own decision completely anew? I don't have an answer for you for that, but I do think it's a question that should be addressed with council. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Hello, I am a member of the Planning Commission, and I did want to make some clarification, and that's why I'm totally with.
Can you state your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Laura Hardcastle. About the summary notes, there are notes about how you take your notes. I've worked on many commissions, more than I could, 50 have been chair, you name it, kinds of committees. And we've always had the long notes. They're very arduous. And I know that's an issue as far as labor and effort to really put down notes. But for this issue, as somebody had earlier said, somebody on the Planning Commission at that time, at the last meeting where this issue came up, said this is the most well-attended meeting where people submitted comments. So the reason why I chose to speak up is, unfortunately, yes, the motion that was proposed was to deny the applicant based on item 1 under the resolution, which is the proposed use of property is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare because it would provide an important tourist-related service to the community. And I think that must have been misunderstood because we actually discussed items 1 through 4. And if we would have had the meeting, you could see that we were really, probably a more important thing is to vote citing all 1 through 4, but specifically to the fact that we have a general plan that designates residential property, and we're plopping a commercial enterprise on the street. We discussed the historical nature of, we have the architectural committee and the people of this town. A lot of issues have always come up to the city council and the 20-some years that I've lived here about signs and this and that because of historical nature. Well, there's books written about the historical homes of Sutter Creek. And we always have the homes on Main Street that lead into downtown Sutter Creek. We've been voted the most beautiful town in the United States and all these other things and accolades that we strive to get for Sutter Creek. And part of that is like other communities that they do preserve on the East Coast when I'm back there, is you have your historic district and you have your stately homes that follow that people take pictures of and admire. And I think it's a very, somebody that lives in the historic district, I think that it's important to preserve our historic district. And if we do go back to look at the ordinances for short-term housing, I think, which I sorely think is necessary to help guide the planning commission based on information brought together from the community and in our best interest, is that we look at it as what does it mean to preserve the historical nature of our community. And I would argue that based on books, conversations, magazines, articles, interviews, and everything else, our stately homes on Main Street. And I would like to think that my home is one of those because I live in a historic home that's on the historic map as well. Shouldn't be, have homes around it that are mini hotels. Because I myself would have never bought downtown Sutter Creek for the amount of money I paid to live here and have the privilege, and it is a privilege to own a home down here, to destroy that sense of community. Because one of the things I brag to people, you can go into somebody's house, borrow things, you sit out, you have a glass of wine, you chit chat. So
You wanna
anyway,
wrap
I
it
just
up
wanted
there?
to, I'm going to wrap it up right now, is to say that all this conversation was missing from what occurred at the Planning Commission that we used as a basis for our decision-making process. It wasn't just item 1. So I have to apologize, and we'll use that to look at things on how we vote and make decisions in the future. Thank you.
Court Strandberg, and I live at 29 Main. And I just came basically to support my neighbor. None of the things that my neighbors have said do I disagree with. And that the one thing I do have, because he's not here, to in the letter that was the applicant wrote about how you needed to protect, keep upkeep of the house. Until they moved out, the Vicaries had that place just puffed up. It looked like a golf course. So the idea that the, long-term renters let it run downhill, it's just not true. They lived there for 10 years and the place always embarrassed me when I walked by because mine doesn't look that good. So I do, and the final thing I would say is that I was on the planning commission for 10 years. The planning commission takes their job very seriously. And I can't speak for them, but when I was on the planning commission, we were always really annoyed when the city council overruled us.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ronback. I own the property that's directly behind 23 Main Street, and our backyards connect. And when we bought our property, it was my understanding we were in a residential area. And that was important because I'm a surgeon. I'm on call 14 days a month. And if there's going to be parties and things going on in the backyard that's keeping me awake at night so I can't get my sleep and be able to be there for the good of the community and the health of the community, that is going to be a problem. So that's just what I wanted to add. And I would be happier if it was a long-term rental or if it was purchased by a family that would take care of it. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Mason, also in 94 Dennis, right behind the house under conversation, and appreciate this chance and all the neighbors' perspectives and thoughts and conversations that we've had, I think have been really helpful. I think for us, we've been here 4 years and we were renters when we started. And I think it's important to maintain a stock of rental houses that, like Court said, the folks were there, Vicari's, for 10 years. I thought they owned the house because it was beautiful. They just worked on it all the time and the front was gorgeous and they were really great people. So we're not against having it rented. We just bought the house thinking that this is a zone for owner occupied, primarily neighborhood, and in this beautiful town that we're really happy to be here. So I just wanted to put that out, and the idea that this can move forward into a short-term rental really goes against everything that we thought we were getting into. So that's all. Thanks.
Anyone else want to comment during the public hearing? So this would be the public's last chance to comment on this item?
Correct. Should go to the applicant.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
see if anybody else wants to, and then I'll call up the applicant. So actually, though, you might as well stand up. Sounds like no one else. So we'll hear from the applicant now.
Hi, I'm Eric Lundgren. My wife has been doing most of the heavy lifting here, Desiree. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Sutter Creek is known as the jewel of the mother lode. It's on the signs. Our shops, our restaurants, our tasting rooms, they're not here by accident. They survive because visitors come to experience the character of our town. Tourism, for better or worse, is the lifeblood of our economy. If we want to keep Main Street vibrant, if we want our historic town to continue thriving, we have to welcome those who make the trip here. The people who stay in our town are not strangers in a negative sense. They are guests who choose to spend their time and their money in Sutter Creek. They walk down Main Street, they shop at our businesses, they eat at our restaurants, and they take home memories that they share with their friends and families. That ripple effect is what keeps small towns like ours alive. And there is something especially powerful about allowing them to stay in one of our historic homes. It deepens their appreciation of Sutter Creek and connects them to the history that makes this place special. I probably could have saved some time for everybody, but I want to speak to the comments that I've heard about neighborhood character, and that the suggestion that because we don't personally live in this house, that we are somehow not part of this community. I want to push back on that. I was born here. I've lived in Amador County almost my entire life. I went to high school in Sutter Creek. Hello, Mr. Strandberg. And I've lived here, and have lived there for a short time. My daughter took her first steps there. I met my wife there. This has always been my home. And I have as much reason as anyone in this room to care about the well-being of this town. And I only live 10 minutes away in Pine Grove. Just because I don't lay my head here at night in this particular house does not mean I am not your neighbor. Being a neighbor is about more than an address. It is about caring for a place and contributing to its future. We see ourselves as stewards of this historic property, and we take that responsibility seriously. Finally, I think it's important to be clear about what this decision is and what it is not. The house on Main Street is one of the most striking historic homes in Sutter Creek, but it is not an affordable long-term rental. Denying a short-term rental permit for this property will not create one more affordable housing unit for our teachers, our service workers, or our young families. It will not make a dent in the real housing challenges we face. What it will do is keep an extraordinary historic home underutilized when it could be serving the town by hosting visitors who come here to support our economy. Historic preservation and responsible tourism can and should go hand in hand. Approving the permit does not mean turning our town into something that it isn't. It means keeping Sutter Creek alive, welcoming, and sustainable. Thank you.
Hearing nobody else, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
I move.
Did you make a motion?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Okay, we're going to take this back to council. Let's start with some questions for staff, and some of those questions are going to come from your folks' comments.
Madam Mayor, may I just make a few remarks? So they're just in response to some questions. First, this is what's called a de novo hearing, meaning you can freely consider all of the evidence, just like the Planning Commission did. The burden is on the appellant. In this case, the appellant is the applicant, which means the applicant has the burden to show. And I just want to make sure we all understand, what the standards are. The standards are set forth in our zoning code, and there are 5 findings that our staff has summarized. These come from chapter 18.60.040 of our code, and there are 5 findings that we have to make. This is a standard use permit findings. They're pretty broad findings, but I do want to remind the council you are sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity. One of the things about courts and judicial decision-making is it's guided by precedent. Now, in this case, you do not have, in the legal world that I live in, we have what we call reported decisions of appellate courts. These guide lawyers in determining what the law is. We do not have anything like that. But as a municipal lawyer, as your advisor, I do want to make sure that we are making decisions consistently. And we do have, I believe, staff can correct me, something like 20 of these throughout the city. And so the question when you approach this is, can you make a different finding in this case, or findings in this case, than have been made for these other facilities? I heard, for instance, this was a commercial site, but there are 2 houses between this house, and this is a house. This is not a commercial building. I understand it's located. Now, maybe you will find that because it's located next to downtown, that might be something that you think is different or that separates this from other applications. That's your decision. But this is a house. And I do want to remind the council that there are, clearly legitimate concerns about people partying and people misusing the privilege of coming here and staying here. But we have very specific conditions that we are imposing that everyone else who has a short-term rental has to follow. Condition 14 basically says that somebody has to respond within 60 minutes of any disorderly conduct. And condition 11 says that whoever is operating. So the couple that we have here, that they have to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for purposes of responding within 60 minutes. Our noise standard applies. So I do want to make clear that if you do approve this, you are not approving anything that would disturb the peace of the neighbors. If there are disturbances, the owners would be immediately obligated to do something about it. And if they don't, then you as a council have the authority to step in and take away their right to have this. And I just want to be clear that that is something that this city has done for these other 19 or 20 facilities. So just to guide your decision-making, the owners do have the burden because they are the ones appealing. It is a de novo hearing, but I do want to make sure that this council applies our short-term rental regime, the conditional use permits, finding consistently with how that has been applied throughout our city. And if you find something different about this because of the nature of the house, the nature of its surroundings, the nature of downtown right next to it, that's your prerogative. But to guide your decision-making, I think those are relevant factors to consider.
Thank you, Derek.
Aaron, are the ordinances in the packet specifically or just the staff response guidance on them? I'm not finding.
The ordinances themselves, so the zoning ordinance is chapter 1860. That's in the, you can find that online. And then the standards for the appeals are in chapter 2.53. So those are the, and we might be able to, if you really wanted to, I'm sure I could work with our staff to put them up on the screen or on these screens for everybody.
I think if our ruling needs to be in response to them, we should have them up.
Yeah, the specific findings are in that staff report, like.
Well, I know the findings, but the direction, I mean, that's the direction. Or do you mind just reading that first one that the planning commission ruled against it for, please?
It is in the packet, Susan. It's on page 10.
Yeah, that the proposed use of the property is not desirable or essential to public convenience or welfare. And so the findings are in the packet, the staff report and the reso, but they're expanded. Like I gave the reason why that finding can be made. And if Aaron could pull up the
Yeah, that's
conditional use
separate
permit
than the
findings, the 5 findings that are required on any conditional use permit, whether it be a short-term rental or anything else that's asking for a CUP.
Yeah, Claire, because that's the opinion. I was wanting the actual source document.
Yeah, thank you, Susan.
So Aaron, it would be 18.60.040 or findings and decisions. The commission, on the basis of the evidence submitted at the hearing, may grant use permits required by the provision of this title when it finds that and has A through E.
Are you going to put those up here?
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
0.040.
And I think I think it's especially important because what I've heard from several of the folks who were at the meeting is that it wasn't just the first one that they couldn't find, that it was the others. So for me, I'd like to go through those as well a little bit and understand those more fully.
And so what I did is I re-listened to the meeting, and when they made the motion,
Yeah.
they selected finding A
I
as
hear
the
you.
one to incorporate into the motion.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It's kind of important. I mean, they explicitly made the motion. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of public comment. And hopefully as we go forward, both the planning commission and council will be really specific in their motions about what they're focusing on.
But is someone suggesting that because they didn't include all these others, that it's not salient?
So again, the hearing is de novo, and our code says that once it's before you, you step in and you have the ability to make all the findings the planning commission could. So whether the planning commission limited to just one of the findings, but if you feel that you want to address all 5 of them, you have every right. That is within your prerogative.
Right.
Is it possible, Aaron, to zoom in on it a little? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm catching what you're throwing down, Susan. So if the finding in our code is simply to that it's desirable to the public convenience, the rest of this language that was added in, we don't have a short-term rental ordinance. We just have, standards for the CUP. So at what point did this get added, and is this what got, obviously there's a slant to it. It's
staff guidance, right?
I don't know. That's what we're asking. I think these findings here.
So, yeah, so I mean, it's a finding. You might be able to make a finding and you might not. So based on what I reviewed in the code, the information I had from the applicant, our general plan, these are how I believe that the city council can make these findings if they choose to.
That
Right.
makes sense.
Okay.
And then I just wanted, for context for everybody, I prepared about 4 different versions of a short-term rental ordinance over the course of a couple of years. I think the last time I presented that to the council was in 2019. I think that may be in the packet, or we provided that. So all of which is to say that we have debated this and having a very specific ordinance. You're not you, none of you. Well, Jim, you were, you might remember that, but the 5 of you who I used to work with, or 4 out of the 5 of you, debated this endlessly for probably hours and hours. And I went through 4 or 5 different iterations, and then, we stopped. And so what ultimately was decided is that we try to get to 20. And then once we got to 20, we would look at a more specific, but until we got to 20, we would just use the conditional use permit.
Right.
So if anyone in this room or the council is wondering, why do we just have these 5 findings to guide us? They seem pretty general. Shouldn't we have something more, which a lot of cities do? It's because
We're not there yet.
we're not there yet. And because, and again, I'm not suggesting prior councils made a good decision or a bad decision. I'm just saying that this was looked at, and this is an intentional decision that was made to get us to this point.
Right. Before 2019, when they were working on it, Robin and my dad were working on it, and they were hammering out only like Robin and my dad could, in extreme detail, an ordinance. And the planning commission had written an ordinance, and I went back and looked at some stuff. My understanding is that the planning commission had written a draft ordinance, and the council didn't think it had enough teeth in it and decided they were going to do it themselves with more restrictions and considerations. And that was 2019. And COVID kind of shot everything down, including applications. And I know when Julia and I joined the council, this has been an important issue to the community for a long time. And we had both brought it up, and there was the trigger number, and, that number slid. And then this council, not very many months ago, we considered again if it was time for an ordinance, and voted that it wasn't. So, in any case, whether that was right or wrong, and we have an item here, a couple lines down, that is to ask that question again: do we need an ordinance? Unfortunately, these not fortunate or not, these applications came in under this, which we have now, or that rather. And that's what we have to consider it by, and that's what we considered the other 18 or 19 or however many other ones there are. Is that everybody else's understanding?
I agree with what you're saying, Claire. I think that's what happened. So the difficulty I'm having is a couple of different things. I get the argument that says we don't want to be inconsistent. That's important. And We allowed 20 before based on these rules. And in the time I've been here, the discussion around these rules has never been as robust and compelling as what I'm hearing tonight, vis-a-vis, this is the historic downtown Sutter Creek. This feels a little different. I'm torn because I think it's really important not to be willy-nilly in our decision-making against existing, guidelines. That's really important. But it's also really important, at least for me, to understand, yeah, but this is a little different. And historic downtown is a little different. I mean, it's a lot different. So I'm sitting here torn in this moment, wishing that we could put this on hold, do the work, the robust work that needs to happen on this darn ordinance, get it done, and then invite the applicants to come back and resubmit against whatever we come up with, including the community, to develop what we believe are appropriate guidelines for STRs in Sutter Creek in the ongoing.
I face the same dilemma. Do we do the best we can with what we've got or what we don't have? Which leads us to some subjectivity in defining and looking at the historical section. And yet we also have a planning commission that we value and have put our faith in on making decisions and read and understand their decision. So I think what puts us in the hot seat in many ways. I had actually thought of the same thing. Do we table this until we can come back as a council and come up with specific ordinances? Or do we support our planning commission, look at their decisions, which I think can be, maybe this is the cat out of the bag, can be supported. But it's hard to do without a little bit of subjectivity, which I don't know is where we want to go with this. I really want to make one point in the applicant's letter in the council packet. Claims that the decision by the commission was based on assumptions rather than evidence, and it puts the onus on us to also be able to find the evidence. But with our lack of an ordinance and doing the best that we can, I believe there has to be some degree. If we're going to make a decision tonight, there's going to have to be allowance for the subjectivity, definition of historical, definition of commercial in an R1 zone community. So I want to close this by thanking our planning commission, but thanking gratefully our community and neighbors who have come forth and spoken their hearts. And hopefully, when it comes down, I think we need to decide whether to decide tonight, or do we want to put this on hold and have something more objective?
Before we,
Yeah.
Derek, can you chime in on
Sure.
if we can do that?
If the appellant, who is the applicant, has a right to a decision, one way or the other.
Okay.
But that said, if the decision tonight is to deny the appeal and effectively the application, that would not stop the appellant from submitting a new application if you do go back and amend, if you do adopt a more specific ordinance, then they, like anyone else, would have a right to apply under that. But I do want to be clear. Now, if you need to table tonight or continue to gather more information or to direct staff to come back with something, that's within your prerogative tonight. Or if you feel like you want some more time, but that would be a limited continuance. But an open-ended continuance is really not available.
Derek, do we have an option at this point? And maybe I'm skipping to the agenda item a couple down, but we see where we are right now. Can we, not these two applications in front of us, but can we stop taking new applications until this work is done?
I mean, we probably, and I think the way this all started, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, is we may have tried a moratorium. I need to go back and look.
I don't recall.
Okay. We may not have done, I mean, we can adopt a moratorium ordinance that would stop this altogether. Because once an application is complete, we generally have a duty to move it forward towards a hearing. So what I would suggest is let's keep debating on this, or keep deliberating tonight on this and the next one. And then when we get to the item, the more workshop-y item that we have later, we can address that. And if you want me to come back with some type of moratorium that would stop new applications, we could look at that.
How far do you want us to discuss this? Are we going to just share and then go back and vote? How do you want to?
Jim's got something to say.
Yeah.
In regards to consistency, item A says the proposed use of the property are desirable to the public convenience or welfare. That seems like a pretty subjective standard. Also, we previously talked about whether we were just going to make this a ministerial, these applications would be ministerial, and then staff would, as someone said, check off the boxes and approve. But we decided not to do that and keep it, the process as it was, although possibly flawed, that it would go before the Planning Commission and have to apply for a CUP. And that requires notifying neighbors, adjacent property owners, and so that they can weigh in with their concerns. And so it seems that since we're going to do that, then we have to weigh in the concerns of the neighbors. Otherwise, why go through the process of notification and having a hearing? And if, Derek, maybe if you could answer my question. So of A, that the Planning Commission used that felt that that requirement wasn't met. And since each application comes in and is handled individually, is it up to the Planning Commission and or the council, if it's appealed, to interpret what they believe to be the desirable to the public convenience or welfare?
I think it is.
So this gets into another body of law. I might confuse everybody because I said earlier, you're acting in a judge-like capacity, but you're also the legislative body for the city. And so what courts have said is when you interpret your ordinances, if you are given deference in how you interpret your ordinances, because you are the legislative body that created these ordinances. So as you act like judges tonight and apply, the evidence, you apply these standards to the evidence, you have the ability to interpret these reasonably. You can't twist them into some meaning that, is absurd or is totally not intended. So you have the ability, you are the legislative body. And really I think this is the first time we've had an appeal of a short-term rental. So you're acting like a court of appeal, not a trial court here. You could think of the Planning Commission as the trial court, but you are the legislative body. So you're acting like the appeals court and you get to make these high-level interpretations. So you have the ability to interpret the code, but when you listen to the comments tonight, it's really up to you to decide, what facts do you distill? There's a lot of opinion expressed tonight. And please understand, I'm not denigrating the opinion, but I heard a lot of people making arguments for that probably would seem more apt for the short-term rental discussion if we were going to introduce an ordinance. They're making policy-based discussions about, should we even have this in our city? So the only thing I would ask is this council is focus on this site and focus on what you heard. And is there anything about this site that you heard that causes you to feel one way or the other about all of those findings?
Well, here's what I heard that's different than the other 20, right? So I'm trying to answer my consistency question. But what I heard is that the finding that it's the public convenience and welfare, that it will not impair integrity or character, that the folks who live here and right next door are challenging that notion. They're saying, well, yes, it will, or it very well may. I understand that in our CUP guidelines, we have opportunities for people to pick up the phone and do this and that, but it's different. I've never been in a hearing like this where the comments are reflect against these findings. I'm more compelled to hear that evidence this time than in any of the other 20. So myself, I could deny this thing and sleep tonight on the issue of not being inconsistent if we agreed we're going to, within 90 days, confer an august body, 2 of us, 2 of the planning, the people in the audience, and build, some rules and regs that we can all live with. And then at that time, the applicant can come back if they so chose. But that's where I'm sitting in this moment.
Dan, just to clarify, is it more compelling because it's on Main Street and it's this many people? Because we don't usually hear these. They go to the Planning Commission. But there's a couple that have been over here in Greenstone Terrace.
And we heard those.
And there weren't as many,
Right.
but those folks felt just as deeply the things we're hearing tonight. There's one on Broad Street and Mrs. M comes to mind, and there was a letter to the paper.
Right.
The
Yeah, I remember.
convictions are just as deep and the findings are just as arbitrary. So if we can find this not desirable to the public convenience, I guess this is a question for Derek. And we found the others desirable to the public convenience. Are we falling down on the job as the judicial part of the job?
Well, what I would ask is, what about this site may be different than those other sites?
Right.
That is where, if there are council members who feel that this site is qualitatively different than the other sites because of its location, because of its surroundings, because of other circumstances, then that may be a factor for your decision-making. So I don't want to,
Yeah.
I do not want to put my hand or my thumb on the scale.
Right.
I just want to guide you in that,
Right.
how to help you exercise your discretion.
And Claire, it's a great question. I appreciate what you're saying. And my answer is it's both. It's both the fact that it is on the main street of Sutter Creek. And it's the thoughtful, body of input that we've heard tonight. That's different to me.
I hear that, and I see both of those things in this item, but we have another one in a minute,
Yep.
right?
I know.
And one of the things I hear most from the public, and I'm scanning, only one of you out here now has, I think, spoken to me directly. The concern is housing, housing inventory, available housing, affordable housing, all those things. Now, this house is not going to solve that.
No.
It's not a regular family is not going to rent it and get to live in Sutter Creek and be our neighbors.
Well,
However,
it is just it is a house that you're taking off the long-term rent.
but not an affordable rental type, regular income house. And
I get that. I think that we should.
I'm not
sorry.
done. The
go ahead.
next one And some of the ones over here, you know, that we have passed, those are taking houses out of the rental market that might have rented for $1,500, $2,000 a month and actually, you know, been able to accommodate a family.
Right.
So, you know, I'm just,
Right.
there's a flip to it. So that there are extenuating circumstances with this home because it's one of the Main Street homes, you know, one of the homes I never, ever, ever want to own because I can't do yard work like that. Like, I get it. But there are equally important factors to the neighbors in other neighborhoods.
I think there was a really strong point made that if Sutter Creek really was facing a shortage of tourism opportunity to stay, I would probably say, okay, yeah, we need to open up what we can to let the tourists stay, but we don't. And that's that's a big part of my reasoning.
Well, I
It's-
think that
that's-
pertains to the whole, the
Correct,
ordinance, though.
correct.
You know.
But when we get to that, but as far as this goes, we are not in a dire need to have this property as a short-term rental. And I don't see it as, it's not going to, I don't think, make or break the Sutter Creek City budget. You know, I think my 3 points were that the property, the proposed use of the property is not obviously desirable for public convenience per our public input. The proposed use will or has the propensity to impair the integrity and character of the surrounding neighborhood. And I think that's what distinguishes, Dan, the historical district in the historical setting, in keeping it a community, keeping it a neighborhood, and not making something commercial out of it. So actually, I see that there was a second and possible third, E, that it will not be in harmony with the other various elements of the general plan because it would disrupt the historical integrity and pattern of the houses on the street.
Actually, the finding that I find most easy to not find is also in E, maintaining neighborhood character, because it's not neighborhood character if it's not a neighbor anymore. So, you know, I think there are plenty of places you could point because these are so arbitrary to not make these findings. But my concern is
The next one.
how did we make them? Well, we didn't make them before. And, you know, the Planning Commission has asked for as long as I've been doing this job for, you know, more guidelines and a framework to, they have no basis on which to approve or disapprove these. So, Robert, you know, brought up this 20 house thing that had been kicked around, and you're right, it's not codified, and it's, you know,
Well,
it was a,
And that wasn't the intention to
It was a
codify.
it was just a trigger
Yeah,
point
just-
to say, we asked for a trigger point so that it wouldn't just get swept under the rug and forgotten.
right. So,
It wasn't a hard cap or anything.
No.
no, but I think that the planning commission saw that and thought, oh, okay, now maybe we could do something because they haven't been empowered to.
And it was a trigger and it should trigger. So
And we came back because of it, had the discussion last year. I would say whether you approve or deny, don't tie this to any timing on an ordinance in the future. My understanding was it was over a year of discussion already. And again, don't commit staff to a 90-day timeline or anything like that.
So next on the agenda, we are going to talk about having an ordinance, and that will make all this simpler for everyone. But with regard to what the planning commission decided and with regard to these findings and decisions, they are incredibly subjective and being desirable to the public convenience or welfare and impairing the integrity of character of the area in which it is located. Clearly, we've heard from the community that you all feel that those things would, us approving this wouldn't uphold those things. So where I see the where I agree with the planning commission to deny is, and with regard to housing and affordable housing, like anytime you take something, you put it in the short-term rental market, you're taking out of the housing stock. So regardless of the rent, you're still taking it away from a full-time community member. And then you're also not, I think there's an onus on us to protect our renters. And then most emphatically, it is the historic district, it's downtown, and it's a conditional use permit. So we do have this ability to be talking about it tonight. And the size of the property, I think is important to the community. And yeah, just I do think that the general welfare of the town is better served with it kept as a community home. And just deferring right back to those findings.
So may I, again, I'm trying not to jump in, but for purposes of a motion, if the council wishes to approve the appeal, then I believe we have a resolution. So you would move the resolution. If the council chooses to deny the appeal, my request is so that we can provide a notice of the denial after this meeting, is that whoever makes the motion specifies which of the grounds, A, B, C, D, or E, or all of the above, that it finds could not be established. I think that would be good for the record. And I think for the sake of having that in the minutes would be helpful.
Derek, one question that I think pertains to that. So I'm looking at one place it has, there are several pieces in here where it's stated that short-term rentals are, here's one. Short-term rentals are functionally equivalent to bed and breakfast inns and therefore permitted, with the same zoning. When, is that codified? Because short-term rentals are not the same as bed and breakfast. So if, we could deny it because it doesn't actually fit the zoning. I don't think we've ever,
Well,
where did that statement come from, that they're the same?
yeah, that it goes back to that discussion earlier, which is we had an ordinance that defined short-term rentals and would regulate them. In fact, that ordinance has a specific definition. We chose not to adopt that, and instead the practice of the city has been to interpret single-family residences as eligible for short-term rentals as an appropriate use. So we have essentially by interpretation allowed that over the course of several years and over the course of 20 properties.
Right.
A bed and breakfast is a type of lodging facility. I mean, a person lives in the facility and actually provides meals to the people who stay in the facility. So that's actually a lodging, and that's something that's different.
Right. Well, in this, it refers to the municipal code
So we're saying that past councils,
60.020 about bed and breakfasts.
so Claire, we're saying past councils have interpreted that way, and that's how the other applications have been approved.
And so in the future, Claire, we can change that, but we shouldn't tie it to this, is what I'm hearing.
That would be.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't think that would be fair to this applicant to just reverse course
No.
now. If you want to change
No.
that as part of an ordinance, we can.
We can do that in the future.
But so my recommendation again, if if it is the pleasure of a majority of the council to deny, then the procedural vehicle would be a motion to deny the appeal. And then my request, so that we can properly notify the appellant and the applicant, is that whoever makes the motion specifies which of the A, B, C, D, E, or all of the above grounds that you're relying on, and that the motion approve that. If again, that's only if you deny. If you
Right.
approve, then there's a resolution. You would simply move the resolution.
Are any of the current B&Bs in residentially zoned buildings?
Yes. They, yeah,
Yeah.
no, oh,
Well, all Main Street is zoned commercial, right?
I think
but
so.
it doesn't
No, just
matter
between here
for
and.
this thing.
Well, there's a thing about the general plan, so that would bring in zoning, I think.
When you say all of Main Street, you're thinking about the commercial core.
Yeah, so
This is
the
all-
outer.
This is all Main Street.
Oh, no, my bad. Yeah, I was thinking, thank you.
So,
59 of the, on page 59 of the packet and then the another item, I do have all of the hotel and inns listed.
Yeah.
Right.
So shows where they, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't have their addresses.
It's not, I think that wasn't really what we're focusing on anyway. I just thought.
Right.
It was worth knowing.
I'd like you to keep up, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to move on, I guess, and I would like to move that we deny the appeal of the applicant for the 23 Main Street based on findings that violated 18.60.040 A, B, and E. And having that 23 Main Street property into a short-term rental would have a negative historical impact or a negative impact on the historical nature of the neighborhood, and leave it at that.
I don't know that you want to bring in historical. I think just, you want to stick to those.
Yeah,
And
I just threw in PS.
Yeah, and
That was a
I'm,
PS.
I think it might be prudent to omit E because I'm not sure that it is in conflict of the general plan.
The proposed
So-
uses of the property are, must be or are in harmony with the various elements or objectives of the general plan. The general plan protects the historical downtown and historical nature of our town.
Do you,
I agree that E should be included.
Yes.
So I just
Is-
want to be clear, you have a motion that's not yet been seconded where A, B, and E are the bases for denial.
Right.
is that written in the general plan?
Well, I think, Councilmember Feist, I think,
historical preservation
yeah.
is in the general.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I would second the motion.
Does it matter, Derek, this is for you? If in Julia's motion, she's citing, is it A, B, and E?
Yes.
A, B, and E off of the screen, or A, B, and E that the planning commission considered in their item?
It should be the same.
It's the, yeah, so,
Really?
yeah, so I just want to
They're
be clear, the planning commission did hear the same. What you're seeing is a staff report recitation of what the planning commission, but the planning commission looked at the same ordinance and the same findings.
They looked at,
Yes, they looked, they
Okay.
looked at that.
that was my
So
question.
that, yes.
So there is a motion on the table to deny the appeal based on not being able to make the findings A, B, and E. Is that right, Julia?
Yes.
Okay.
And I seconded that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, motion carries 5-0. You guys need a quick recess?
Yes.
Do you want to take?
We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, I'll keep it going.
Right here.
Every now and then I chime in and do my job. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you kind of have to. And no, he doesn't pay my It does not pay my salary, sorry, I had to I'm not letting that one go. You want to pay my salary? I want a raise.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Wild, I didn't know you were here.
Well.
Yes, I'm Claire. Sometimes we skip me really nice to meet you. Yeah, I recognize the name. Cool. Yeah. Good for you. I recognize it from something else. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to, reacquaint your face and meet you.
I know you, your general on Friday, it's like at 12:30. Right now, there's nothing to go. Right, yeah. So. That was worth it. So Brad.
Oh, yeah, I see, yeah. He did something great. Yeah, no.
Last call.
No, you're fine. I didn't realize. Gads. Okay, we have 1 hour to get this over with.
Are we all set, guys?
I'm all set.
We're going to come back into session. Thank you all for sticking around. We still have more people than we usually do, and it's 8 o'clock. We're going to do item 8B, which is another short-term rental application. So it's the same format. We're going to open a public hearing. We've had a lot of discussion, so the intro, I imagine, is a little shorter, but Erin, why don't you start off?
Yes, thank you. I think, like you said, we've discussed a lot of the findings and the process of short-term rentals. So I'm just going to go through kind of the facts and about this short-term rental. So the application is for a conditional use permit to use 30 Bryson as a short-term rental. The Planning Commission heard this item on September 8th and denied the item based on citing finding A, which is the proposed use of the property are it's not desirable to the public convenience or welfare. Again, they did discuss other findings. They used that one in their motion. This project is located in the R3 zoning district and in the residential multifamily general plan land use designation. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and they have indicated that they have the 3 required parking spots, which would be 2 in the garage and 1 in the driveway, or 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway right there. They provided a site plan for the property. And again, I have provided findings and a resolution for approval of the conditional use permit for the short-term rental. As we experienced in the last item, the commission, or the council can either adopt that resolution with changes or make another motion if they choose, if they cannot make the findings and choose to deny the project. Do you have any other questions of me for this application?
Do we have I was looking, I still can't find the reason for the denial by the
It was A.
A.
Yeah.
There it goes. Done. Done. I read right over it.
I'm just going to, because it's in here again, and I think it needs corrected before I don't know if it's in the resolution. On 38, it repeats, the requirement is 1 space for each guest room plus 1 space for each 5 or less guest room. So
So Karen,
I'm clear.
Claire, that's, it's 1 per bedroom. And then on the 5th one, it's plus 1. On the 10th one, it's plus another 1.
That's
That's the way it reads.
I don't think that's how it reads.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the intent, but before I open the public hearing, does anybody have any other questions for the staff? Nope. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Would anyone care to address the
No, I'd
council?
like to go over it again, please. Thank you.
Nobody? Applicant? Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and invite the applicant during the public hearing or outside the public hearing. Derek?
the applicant is the appellant can make the first presentation, and then typically, because they're the appellant, if there are comments, we can give the appellant a rebuttal.
So should she speak during the public hearing first?
She has the right to do that. If
Would
she
you-
waives that right, she can wait and see if anyone speaks and then respond. So she has two opportunities.
Okay.
So that
Nobody's
makes-
speaking, so.
Please go.
Okay, yeah,
to
come
the-
up to the.
It's being recorded for posterity.
Hi, I'm the applicant, Pam Haydenmeyer. I built the house on 30 Bryson over the last 2 years. My husband has dementia and I have to go care for him in Tuolumne County. So I'm trying to get a permit to do Airbnb because, and I am zoned I think I'm zone R2, but all around me are commercial buildings. So I'm really not affecting the neighborhood. My neighbor next door is the only one whose yard is adjacent to mine. And I talked to her before I applied and she had no problem with it. So I'm hoping you'll issue the permit. Thank you.
I noticed driving by today that you have a for sale sign on the house.
I do.
So I'm kind of curious, are you just, is your plan then you think it might take a while to sell the house, so you want to short-term
That's
rental?
part of it. When I was denied, it was not on the market.
Oh, I see.
And the denial sparked that. I had a little problem with having to pay $150. I was not notified of the hearing myself, so I didn't know. I was in City Hall that day and I had no idea that
Oh, you weren't at the original
I wasn't at the meeting.
planning commission meeting?
No. So I was not going to protest it or contest it and had a change of heart.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Which you're certainly entitled to.
thanks.
And is it your preference to do the Airbnb versus rent it because you're still staying there part-time, or?
That was my original plan, yes. But I'm not sure whether I'm even going to do the Airbnb, but I do think I should at least have a chance to get a permit that I've paid my share for. I've paid for the all the fees and another $150 to contest this.
For the appeal?
For the appeal, yeah. I think I should have that opportunity. It doesn't look like the market for sales is really, really good right now. So it may be my only option right now.
And I'd like to compliment you on what you did on that corner lot. I used to go
That's
by there and I thought, God, that lot's so small, what you did just fits the lot
Thank you.
beautifully.
I agree. I walk by it all the time with my black dog and wave at you. Yeah. It looks great.
Thank you. So can I go sit down?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Public hearing is still open if anyone else wants to comment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, did you have any questions or do you want to start a deliberation?
Well, I'll just comment that I think this location is completely different, in my opinion, than the one we just considered previously. It's multifamily. It's surrounded across the street is the back of the professional building where there's dental and chiropractor, I think maybe, and it just has, and across the street is the
Long-term care.
long-term care.
Yeah.
Gold quartz.
Yeah.
terrace. And it's completely, in my mind, it's a lot different than what we considered previously.
Can I ask applicant specific questions? How, having gone through dementia in my own family, my heart goes out to you. My concern is the upkeep and time. Will you be able to afford for a short-term rental? Okay. Okay.
I agree with Jim about this property
Mhm.
and have no problem with approving it personally.
I think that on like the outside, you could still deny it on the public convenience or welfare and because of the protecting renters and the housing stock. But I think with regard to this situation, it's clearly not just turning over to like an income property that someone isn't using part-time, because this is more for the next conversation about our ordinances, but there are some towns that have like a maximum amount of days you can rent them per year, which kind of makes sense for people that are using the home but want to make some money off it as well, which I think, so I think that it would be an appropriate use in this circumstance.
Did anyone want to make a motion?
Sure.
Can I just point out one more thing, just for both the applicant, and mostly I think for the applicant, if the city council does issue a conditional use permit, it is non-transferable. So I know that the house is on the market, and so I wouldn't want, if you get the permit, wouldn't want you to mark it that it goes with the house if you sell it.
Yeah, I would move to approve Resolution 25-26 for 30 Bryson, Sutter Creek.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay. Next up on the administrative agenda is the city tree ordinance. And because we've had a long meeting, I did discuss with Tom if it would be okay to push that to next time or the time after next. Is that all right with all you guys?
It's okay with me.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. 9B, short-term rentals. We could be here all week. I
have an idea.
I have an idea too.
You want to go? Yeah.
Rochambeau, Jim and Dan.
I say it's obvious that it's something we should probably look at, but not put a lot of pressure on staff right now.
Here's what I'm thinking, and I don't know how the rest of you might feel about this. But Derek, earlier we talked about a moratorium on STRs. I'd like to suggest that Derek brings us something like that, and we go into a moratorium until we get it redone, however long that takes, and we do it right. We have a couple of members of the council, a couple of members of the planning commission, and the public involved in this thing, and it takes whatever time it takes, no additional pressure on staff, but we get it done. I probably have to say within a reasonable amount of time, 6 months or something like that. But in the meantime, if we can moratorium these things, I would recommend we do that.
I agree with that. I mean, when we set the trigger point at 20, it was for a reason. And I think until we can move forward and avoid the difficult decisions and conversations and that, although, I mean, they were productive, I would agree with that moratorium. At the Cal Cities Conference, there's a whole session on short-term rentals in communities. And so rather than kind of recreating a wheel, I'd like to be able to obviously attend that and bring back ideas that other communities are using. Until then, and until we can get it right, I agree that we could be doing this every council meeting and absorbing a lot of time rather than focusing on getting it right and just doing it once.
So if I could just comment, and again, what you guys want to do, is fine. But I think tonight was very interesting. I think you had two very different cases. You had one with a lot of people in the room and you denied it, and you had one you passed very quickly, and it was a different situation. So I would just say I think a moratorium is a very strong thing. And you guys should think about that versus, you have people that could be in this situation who are just going to be prevented from doing anything. And as you saw in the staff report, I mean, we're still right around 20, which is about 1% of the housing stock. And we haven't had issues with party houses and things. So I hear the desire to get the ordinance done. I think it'd be useful tonight to maybe get a few ideas about parameters you'd like us to consider in that ordinance. I'm not sure I agree with like the working committee idea. I think we have a pretty good draft. We can have that resent out to you guys. We didn't put it in this packet, but it was sent to you guys just a few months ago.
I had it again, and what I requested it from Tom last week, and what you sent me was just these findings. It wasn't what I was looking for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Derek did send out the ordinance the last time we discussed this, which was last year. And I thought I resent that email. It must have,
Let's resend it and.
yeah.
Did you?
I
But-
think that's a
I
good,
think a moratorium is it necessary? Get to work on.
yeah, I agree. And like that scenario is, I think, a good thing for the community and helps everyone.
I think a moratorium is necessary because I don't want to be in this position again where we just make an arbitrary decision off of subjective findings. And I think it's dangerous for the city. I really was pretty uncomfortable tonight, going one way on one and one way on the other. We didn't really get into it with the second one. I think that the area where it is, it'll be less impactful because it's by businesses. There's a lot of duplexes. It's multifamily anyways. But it's our job to make sure that we hear the concerns of the people that live here. We study them, we figure them out, we figure out how they apply, what risks, what detriments there are, what there aren't. And then we make our decisions based on those. And we have all of this feedback about housing inventory and property rights and all of those things, but we really can't say, yeah, we thought about that, we addressed it all, and that's why we're following this path, because we're not. And I mean, I know my personal feelings. I like short-term rentals. For a family like mine, we're not going to go somewhere and rent 2 hotel rooms and eat out 3 times a day. We'll go somewhere else. So, I think that we need to work with this, but I don't want to sit here again. And I don't want to ask the planning commission to sit in their seats again and
Without better guidance.
without better guidance. And I mean, I said this a few months ago. I think we've been punting on this for years now, waiting to address it until there's a problem. And that's not the way we should do business.
Yeah, I understand that the moratorium is, nothing to take lightly. However, under these circumstances, I'm not sure I'm convinced it's worth continuing with the conditions that we have and the process we have. I've lost faith in the process, just in my own experience in going through this thing, to be able to quantify what does and what doesn't meet these conditions. It's just impossible to quantify.
I don't know though, because I don't find it arbitrary. I find it subjective, but I think that I don't feel like we need a moratorium, especially knowing it's only 1% of the housing, because then a person that wants to maybe live in their house and they have this extenuating circumstances that really they want to rent a room like 4 nights a month, and it's only a 2-bedroom house, and it's not really gonna be like, that you could have 15 people staying there for a weekend and partying. So I think the moratorium would shut down possibly applicants that wouldn't impact the city negatively.
We don't have a high need I think it's been demonstrated, someone's did some of the homework for us. We don't have this shortage of places to stay here. So I don't think there's a big push and we need more short-term rentals because there isn't the established need or desire. So I would like to get it right before we move forward, and also for the sake of the members of the Planning Commission, making their job easier. And so they have some direction. And I think the onus is on us to be able to provide that to them. And we haven't done that. So I think we have this opportunity to say, okay, we're going to give you a break. We're all going to take a break and we're going to move forward to get this done. But until then, here's where we stand. If we had this high demand, we have more people wanting short-term rental places than we have available, that might be considered, but we don't.
We
So-
don't, not, sorry, but we don't really have data telling us either way what the occupancy rates of the short-term rental, and I have the same,
Let's take the time and do that then.
well, I don't know if we can get it, and
Yeah, I don't know, we have the data. I think the market is the data. I mean, if people are trying to get short-term rentals and we give them a permit and they can't rent it, then there's no harm, right? But there's apparently some demand to have these permits.
And,
So-
and I'm like Claire, when I go a place, I get a short-term rental because of the same thing. I have kids, 2 hotel rooms, 3 meals a day. It's like prohibitive. I just think we might be shutting out with a moratorium some positive additions.
Yeah, but then let it put a fire under our rears. And, so if the next one is on Broad Street or Spanish Street, which is just as old and just as stately, and 6 people come instead of 20, does that matter less? And go back to Greenstone Terrace. Weren't your grandparents born in one of those houses? I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, this town,
Right.
every part of this town is meaningful in some way to some people. So we can't, even just tonight, as I said, I'm uncomfortable with that.
I'm concerned also about, it sounded like there were some process breakdowns in terms of communication. I don't know if that actually happened or not, but this woman claimed to never even been made aware. I have one that opened up within a stone's throw of me, and I was never made aware that there was going to be a hearing up by my place. So I'm not sure what's going on with our processes either. And so that's another reason that I'd be comfortable, just shut it down for a little while. Take a breath.
Not going to be taking places away from people. Whoever currently has their rental.
So Aaron's mic's up, but he can talk to the notification process.
Her case, she should have known because Aaron was communicating with her about the meeting. However, it is true that the mail notice that was supposed to go to her went to an old address because we used Parcel Plus to get that person the address. So we pull up her property. She had an address where she was living when she was building that property. So the mail notice went to an old property, and I found that out when I was communicating with her planning this.
Yeah. Yeah. But you heard also about a lot of people that, lived next door that didn't get the notice, and this guy didn't get the notice. And
It is done within 300 feet. So again, the process isn't perfect. We have to use the data that's be fair to how we do things. We pull up the properties, whatever address is on file for that property, we send those to that address.
And it's the property owner's
Property
address.
So the mail goes to the property owner. And if the address on file for the property.
I understand. I understand.
So something to be reviewed.
But back to the arbitrary, and I do think it's arbitrary nature of it. I listened to the public planning commission meeting, the portion of it on the Main Street house. I didn't listen to the meeting on the one we just heard. But the planning commission denied it. Those are 5 of our colleagues that I didn't get to the meat of it, but they had some reason. So again, would be re-putting them. And then, if it's appealed us in the same situation that we were just in. And I don't think that there's a big enough push to sacrifice our duty to let a couple more get through. And Tom's right, the market determines it, and that's shifting all the time anyway. So let's get ourselves set up. Let's decide what the city needs, and that the market can do what it will, but we're prepared. And, Jim
We
talked
talked
about
about
the
this-
ministerial decision. Maybe if we do this right, it can be a ministerial type decision. But I don't want to sit here and decide this again until we have some real guidelines.
I think
I mean, clearly it's,
Jason has a comment, but I'd also like, before you make a motion, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, Susan, if you want to go.
you're fine. Mason, you've been waiting a long time.
I'm just waiting for the discourse because mine's just procedural, just like in City Hall, when someone comes in and applies, I just want guidelines on what we can expect to tell the applicant or the prospective applicant if we decide to do a moratorium, what that process might look like. We've talked about, creating a queue of people who come in we create like a queue of people who are interested, and then once the moratorium is ended, we can reach out to them by
In order.
in order of when they applied. We could do it that way. If we decide not to do a moratorium, what that process looks like when they come in to apply. There's a fiscal impact to the applicant. We take a $600 deposit. And so, that's something we need to think about too. And for some people, it's may not be easy for them to pay up front and then to just be put on hold for a few months.
So
Are you saying that we've collected $600 from people already?
Pam, who was here earlier,
We just granted that.
Yep. So
Okay.
she had paid a $600 deposit for this process.
So there are no pending applications. So if we put a moratorium, we would not collect a new application. They wouldn't do the work, pay whoever has to prepare the report.
Yeah, we don't have any pending applications. And actually, a few weeks ago, I did have someone reach out to me and say, I'm looking to buy 2 properties to use as short-term rental. Do you think this is a good idea? My suggestion was that they follow along on the city council's discussion. So I kind of have been warning people that the city council will be discussing this so that they can decide what kind of risks they want to take with buying properties just for that use.
Right.
one more comment. If you do direct tonight, that's up to you. Based on current workload, I'd probably need till the first meeting in November, but I can bring that back to you by then. But I think what we could tell people, if you give direction, is that in November, the moratorium goes into effect immediately if you approve it. So we would not be able to get to a place where we'd have the ability to determine an application complete. So I think in this month between now and then, if you give the direction, we can tell applicants this may be coming. And if it's coming, we may have to give you back your application. Now, I think in that situation, we could refund their fee. We wouldn't just keep it. So
I
that
lost you there. We don't have any application.
right. But if someone
But
dropped
if
one
we're,
tomorrow,
I would assume that whatever we come up with will likely change the application, right?
correct. But what I'm saying is someone could say, well, they're gonna at a meeting in November, or even if we try to accelerate it to the next meeting, which would be very hard. If I come in tomorrow and put in an application, I can beat that. My response is we wouldn't have to process something until it's determined to be complete. So in other words, if you give direction tonight to come back in a month with a moratorium, what staff could do, to answer Mason's question, is that staff can simply say, look, the council is going to be considering a moratorium in November. You may just want to wait. But if you submit something now, and we can take that in, but we're not going to be able to do much work on it. And if they do pass the moratorium, we're going to have to give it back to you. So that's what we can do. But again, that assumes you want to do the moratorium. That's your pleasure. I'm happy to do that. Advising on
The vote tonight would be just to direct you to bring it back because it's not agendized, so it would just be a direction. So
Oh, yeah.
would that, okay, does that require a motion?
And so I was going to also, this is kind of a workshop tonight. We have the work that Derek did before, which we'll resend to you guys. You may have seen it. I think, again, if there are any particular points that you want us to consider as parameters for this ordinance. We don't have to get into a lot of detail tonight, but I think it'd be useful. And again, I ask that you guys think about enforceability. You know, there's a lot of different situations. Aaron and I have been talking. We haven't seen a lot of owner occupied short-term rentals.
Right.
Those haven't come to us. We can certainly have maybe one. Okay.
Right.
So we could certainly have that branch in in an ordinance, but
Right.
don't think that that's going to be a panacea.
Right.
That's not really a lot.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that, just to give you some feedback, you know, I think the work that we do will come to a total number that's going to be appropriate for our community at some point. And whatever that is, it may require, you know, a 2-year rotating opportunity or something. If more people want them, then we have capacity to support by the council's motion, if this were ever to happen, right? 5% to me seems like that's 75 houses or something. My initial thing is that that's a lot of houses. I think that's too many. But these are the kind of things that I want to nail down, along with just density. You know, I think that if there's, you know, 4 of them on a short block in Sutter Creek side by side, that's a problem from a neighborhood perspective. So those are some of the issues on my mind.
And that's,
Got so complicated last time. It would be like one on the south side of the street, and you have
Right.
to skip 4 houses, and then you could have one on the north side of the street. I mean,
I understand it got
That's
complicated,
why
but we have to solve it.
I know, but I'm just
instead of rewriting the wheel, that's why I'm saying, let's wait till
preparing you.
what I can bring back from examples.
That's one
Yeah.
data point that we'll get.
Right.
Yeah, so
We put a little bit in the staff
Compare.
report about examples in Amador County. I think we should look broader than that. I think there are a lot of ordinances out there. But again, it's also, you mentioned 2 years or so, some expiration on these things, and then a fair allocation process. So I've heard the density thing. I'm a little worried it's hard to enforce, but also how is it fair? So one house is on a block, it expires in 2 years. Did they get an equal chance to renew with somebody else on the block? You know,
Yeah, it
how
gets
do you think about
really
fairness?
complicated.
Yeah, it gets
Yeah.
complicated quickly.
Some of these ordinances have been struck down. Am I correct, Derek? Or South Lake?
No,
South Lake Tahoe comes to mind.
Yeah, there are some, but I mean, I think the general authority has been established. And then the moratorium would be to give us some space to regulate so that I'm comfortable we, you know, if we do it the right way, we'd be okay.
And, you know, I don't think density has to be that complicated. You have a dot, you put a circle around it and count how many are in it, right? And if they're on some sort of rotating, you know, maybe 2-year permit cycle, then you're also, you know, potentially not forever changing, you know, your block or your neighborhood. It moves through with the market. Maybe people do something else. Maybe they rent for a while. You know, I don't think, sure, it might be a little bit complicated, but we've done much harder things. And, you know, we've had a lot on our plate, and that's why we punted on this. We've gotten a lot done in the city. I get that. But the density is complicated. So what? It's important to the people that live here. You know, I'm going to go over here again. I think there are 2, and then there were 2 more proposed and 2 cut out, or I don't remember what the current number of them in that neighborhood is. But if there's 3 STRs over there, say, or 4, that has a tremendous effect on that neighborhood. And that's why, so if you're asking what we care about, I think that we need a threshold. I think that we need to consider density. And I think that we need to somehow cycle the permits, you know, so they don't all expire at the same time. They can renew. And if we have more applicants than we do permits, then maybe there's some sort of lottery or something.
I don't think you could, I don't, because I've had 2 Airbnbs, it would be really difficult on owners to do it in 2-year spans because you spend a ton of money furnishing it, marketing it, and then by year 2, maybe you have your clientele, maybe you're making money. So I don't think that, I mean, it could work, but just from a business perspective, I don't think it would work. And
I agree with that point, but I think that's something that we'll address down the road, right?
But yeah, it's a good.
I just want to make a point. I mean,
That's well taken.
because, and I think we should have a discussion, maybe not now when we've had all this emotional stuff with regards to specifics, but about really what our philosophy is and what we want this town to look like. Because even though I think there are situations that they can be, and that's why I'm opposed to the moratorium, because say there's like a widow that needs to make a little extra money and she has a room with a separate entrance and we've created this moratorium so she can't do that. I think that would be something that under, even though the guidelines are super subjective, that would be positive for the public convenience or welfare. But for me, fundamentally, I'm inclined not to be super open to these short-term rentals because I really do think it takes houses out of the rental market and people are, I mean, Mason and my kids are the same age. It's really hard to find housing here. It's really become most of the people here, at least that I see, are moving here from the Bay Area and they're retired and they have a lot of money. And so if we're just letting people then come in and make money off the town, I think we need the kids to come back. I think we need to have like different levels of income, you know, I mean, if you can't really buy a house here unless you have $150,000 or $200,000 to put down. And I don't think we want that. I don't think we want this community. I don't want this community to be just one demographic. So I hope at a later time when we bring this back, we can discuss the direction.
Tom, do you think, or Claire think, like just a separate meeting to address only short-term rentals down the line? So we can focus not on the other things, but just a special meeting for short-term rental consideration. I think with the number of issues that we've covered so far, I mean, and discussion, which is great. I think to put that within a regular meeting is a bit much.
And when you bring back all that information from what other people are doing, I think that'd be super helpful.
I think my phone just beeped. Tom sent us what we had while we were sitting here. So if we all have a chance to look at that, Julia, you're gonna get some ideas next week and Tom will too. You know, I think I have to listen to the staff and Tom doesn't want us to lean in on an ad hoc committee or something right away, so that's okay.
Well,
We could take a beat and
yeah.
see what we have and see
So I
what.
think everybody, unless somebody has another dimension, so total number of units, some expiration period, and we got to think of a process for
Renewals.
expiring throughout the year and renewals. Some density on some threshold of size, whether it's a neighborhood or a block or a mile, whatever it is, some threshold.
Right.
Those are the big things I heard. Right.
There, the ordinances that are out there,
Is it an email?
or that you could come up with.
Just now.
The state is, I'm thinking of ADUs. Since they basically have told municipalities how to zone and what you, what they're telling us what we have to allow when it comes to ADUs. Does that include ADU rentals?
I think in the county here, they don't allow ADUs to be STRs.
ADUs.
Short-term.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
our code does not allow short-term rentals of ADUs.
Okay.
And that's
That
law.
answers the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In regards to Susan's question about somebody wanting to rent out a room in their home, that's different also. That's just owner occupied. You could do that.
If you direct us to write the moratorium that way, I mean,
Well, but someone renting out a room in their home is not doing a short-term rental.
Well, but I mean, as a short term, like, okay,
Oh, by the weekend or
Yeah.
something? Oh, I
or
get
like
that number.
extra income. Cause there's a lot of those when you go on Airbnb, you know? I don't know about here, but.
Yeah,
she's saying short.
we don't regulate that.
Someone who is there, we don't regulate that.
Yeah, if someone has rented out a
Long-term.
room,
So moratorium would not affect that, is what I'm
Correct,
saying.
correct.
So
You're
to your
saying
point,
long-term,
Susan, if
but-
somebody, the story about the widow renting a room,
We're still getting clarity on this
But-
issue, you guys.
but-
They're not sure yet.
So do you have, I'm sorry, I know, is, uh, is there direction you want to give us? I mean, I know that this sounds like a discussion that's going to continue for a while. So do you, I guess the question is, do you want me, I don't need a vote, but would like three of you to direct me to bring back a moratorium. Now, that doesn't mean you have to approve it, but I just need to know, do you need me to do that?
I would,
Good.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I'm one. You need three.
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
There's-
so
there's-
I'll bring that back at your meeting in November.
Right. And in the meantime, at the front office here, somebody walks in,
Mhm.
I would recommend that what you say is that we're starting to think about a moratorium. You may want to wait.
Mhm.
If you want to throw it in a queue, you may get your money back, you may, whatever, but I wouldn't be taking applications right now.
And to tell them if they want to weigh in on
Yes,
moratorium, that will be an agendized item and
Mhm.
open
absolutely.
public discussion.
It's a great point, Jim. Yeah.
I have one more thing when we consider it. I think this discussion today, and I don't, maybe I'm repeating what you all just said, but the historic district and I mean, it really is the tourist district. So having these homes occupied and cared for and not transient, I do think adds to what we have to offer to tourists. And also, I see all the time, I mean, there really are a lot of vacancies in our hotel rooms. So it
Yep.
does cannibalize that.
Okay, so are we good?
Derek, are you good? Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, I didn't get.
Okay, 9C, ACRA update.
Yeah, so I actually forgot I put this on the agenda. So I think we kind of covered it. I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. Again, there are three streams of revenue the city pays into ACRA. There was a swimming pool contract. We have finalized the contract for this past summer, and I told you guys I'm looking for somebody to manage the pool for next year. There is the per capita program fee. Again, that will have to be reimbursed, I assume, equally among the cities participating. I have no idea what ACRA's finances are. If there's a place where they've, spent to support staff and stuff, we may not see as much of that back as the amount of time left in the year. And then the third one is the development impact fees. And, the county and Sutter Creek have been paying our impact fees the last couple of years. The other cities, I guess, have not, and part of that may be they didn't have development. But again, that's an area where I know ACRA said they need to do some auditing and accounting to figure out who is owed what. And what I don't know is how many years back they need to go. But we've paid in about 23,000, something like that in the last
Yeah.
4 or 5 years. But I don't know
Something to collect.
beyond that time frame. And then, yeah, Julie, I don't know if you have stuff you want to
Yeah.
add.
Just briefly, the JPA that was formed, the last probably 3 years have faced some financial struggle. Ione pulled out altogether. That was huge financial hit. Plymouth partially pulled out. Jackson pulled their pool out. So it's been a kind of a trend. We moved from a single director to a team director. 3 women oversaw. One of the women had health concerns and cannot continue. So our options are return to keep the JPA, return to a single director, replace the director who is resigning, or dissolve. And so we, as board members, decided to bring those options back to our councils and say, where do we want to go? So ACRA board will reconvene, Bradley, the 28th, with each city reporting back the direction their cities would like to go. At this point, it's more likely going to dissolve than the concerns are the returning of all assets, due assets back to the cities, financial and possibly any equipment that could be either up for auction. All those decisions are with the help of county council. They have 2 county council members right now working on that. Specifically for Sutter Creek, it will mean finding, as Tom mentioned earlier, a pool manager so we can maintain the function and services of our pool. So what I need is direction from the council staff to take back to the next ACRA board meeting on what we would like to see happen.
I was just gonna look, I wonder if there's some way for our pool, we could keep their social media accounts, because they
Well,
probably.
that's going to be down the line. Right now, we just need to decide what Sutter Creek would like to see, either pursue, try to fight and keep the JPA, or just say, you know what, it's been a interesting run and an experiment for the last 10, 12 years, and we're going to assume our own recreational responsibilities.
Whoa, that's a lot. That's not something that we could tell you tonight. I don't think, we all read in the paper that it was a done deal and Akron's
It's
closed.
pretty much
But you're asking us to weigh in on whether or
They've
not we
asked us
think it
to
should be
come
a done
back.
deal?
And say, this is more likely what's going to happen. But if a city comes back and says, no, we want to stay in, as much as we can, the problem is we have no leadership at this point.
Right.
That's going to be, so to continue on, bottom line is, we really can't. But the options are
I
there.
think of it as like a straw poll, I think,
Yeah.
where
It's-
your sentiment
yeah.
is.
Right.
Well,
But there's nothing that's happened in the past that would convince me to say, oh, yeah, we want to stay. We were the only ones paying for the last 3 years with the county.
And you're not asking us, Julia, what we think should take its place.
No,
Okay.
no.
Do you think there would be a way, like, because with the social media and the connection that's been made, because a tremendous amount of work's been done, and I remember, I think Lottie saying at one point there were some camps from Sutter Creek. I wonder if, are there any like parts of it that are strong that we could pick up and take?
Yeah, if ACRA dissolves altogether, those programs will be still available for individual cities to manage on their own.
Yeah, that maybe
So-
we could find the ones that are the most viable.
So, but first we have to say, are we going to fight to keep, the JPA, which we may be the only one? Or.
JPA needs like
Yeah,
So
it would be a,
of course.
it would be a 1 PA.
My opinion is no.
Yeah.
Mine as well.
But it would be lovely to take some of those.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that program worked really good. Let's do that.
Well, but
They're not, there's no copy.
But I would hope that we could move quickly if we decided to do that, because like the dance studio just closed and it was such a short timeline that even though it was really great program, it just all fell apart and went away. So if there was anything that we could quickly move on that was the most sustainable, I think that would be lovely.
And that's going to be, part of many big decisions.
Budget wise, we budget for the per capita amount that we pay them, and we will not be paying them anymore because they don't exist.
Correct.
So will we put that, would it be prudent to reallocate that money to the Parks and Rec part of our budget?
I mean, it's going to be a big decision. We don't have staff.
Yeah,
We'd have to figure
we
out
could do
how
that.
we would staff things, right?
Well, we'll change the budget that we've adopted though for now. Right?
We adopted a budget that's operating in deficit. Help fill that hole.
It'll definitely leave a huge hole though, because I mean, a lot of kids were going to that camps, weren't they, Julia? How many kids were going to those camps?
I don't know for sure, but it did make a turnaround this year. It was very successful.
Yeah, and Susan, I think so much of it is the people, right? There's no asset
don't-
there to acquire. It's
Yeah, good point.
It's getting the people.
Cross that bridge when we can.
Is,
Yeah, we have, Bradley Booker is also here from Accra, if he could.
Is Accra, are there no more, is there no more money? Is
Oh,
it
no,
bankrupt or?
No, we
Haven't read that.
don't have the leadership. And
Hey, Brad.
And the mic is on. Accra's not done yet. It's up to the cities and it's up to the stakeholders to decide if they want a community-focused, recreation-based entity in our region. And so pulling out, and I'll go to all the cities and say this, means you guys have it on you to take your little piece that you were collecting and make it work for your city. So you're gonna have to raise that rate, you're gonna have to hire a person, your line item's gonna go up, and your programming is gonna be lower, most likely. Now, the value of the programming that Accra has been delivering obviously isn't there because you guys are talking about dropping out. So I think voting towards focusing on restructuring or giving an option or asking the board of Accra to give you a different decision than fold it or it's not that good. Like you can ask more of the governing board of Accra to say, like, let's evaluate whether or not this can be feasible because there's also unincorporated county. They have a lot of money, right, to put towards this agency. And so if it gets pooled towards our community and Sutter Creek and Volcano together say, hey, let's work on a project that connects our communities together with the help of Accra, that resource exists instead of having to now go back and create new bridges and new community resources. So I would heavily suggest that we don't dissolve the agency yet, but ask them to make a plan to restructure or contract out the core services while they figure out a plan to make this, because they can certainly create a contract to do the things that are important and are of value on the books too, and then not do the things that are a deficit to their budget as well, because they do things like trivia and bingo, and some of the cities don't see a value in that. And so if you don't expend towards those things. So I would say there's certainly another approach, a creative approach to offer a regional community recreation resource, which is really, really important to our kids, because if you don't live right here, no one's looking out for you. And the county, if they have to take it over, I don't believe is resource either. I think it takes all of us together to look at what we have and what we can have together. And Amador Trail Stewardship has offered, right, to contend for any bid to help the future of recreation, right, the future of parks and the growth of our community resources along any other competitor, right, any qualified person to come and serve our community. But we want the towns to know that anything we make needs to be valued to you guys, right? Anything that Accra does needs to be of value to you. So think of what it is that is valuable from Accra and decide that you push into that and tell them that, you know, we do want to continue with these types of things because they're valuable to our community, and together we can be much more, right? The city of Plymouth and the city of Sutter Creek, if you take your individual programming dollars, they're not going to go that far, right? They're not going to hire staff. They're not going to offer programming. So I think we need to really pool our resources, and Accra was one of those. It's got a ton of logistic issues, but so do all our budgets, so do all of our city, right? Like we have these things to work out. They can be worked out. I think it's worth considering not just folding it just because there's a hiccup at this iteration, I think.
Which towns are still involved?
Ion's the only one that's actually dropped out completely that I'm aware of, but the real thing is which towns are seeing a value, and can that be, right? Can there be a value from Accra to these towns? They bring the kids to our community garden in Jackson, right? And they plant food and they come back and they eat the food and they do summer camps, and like those kids are having a blast, right? Losing that programming is a detriment to our community. So I would encourage in any way that we can to keep offering what we can.
I appreciate all that you do. But the way this is agendized, it seems like if we're going to try to continue as a member of Accra, or because this just says discussion about dissolution of Accra as if it was a done deal.
That's my fault. It came in at the last second. Yeah, I
so
just
we're
worded it
having
poorly.
a whole nother discussion about some Accra in a different form with different
Yeah, it's a much bigger discussion.
Yeah.
It's not finished. It's not finished and simple. And the press release that went out made it seem like this is finished and this is done, but it needs another board vote to decide what it wants to do. So if the
Correct.
board decides it wants to do something else, it's not dissolved. So the members of the board, which includes seats from each of the cities, gets to decide, is there something worth value, like in this program that we want to keep, and then decide to restructure it to something that's
Yeah, and
valuable
that's
to our
what-
entity.
that's a discussion. It's not agendized.
Yeah, that.
And we need a lot of information.
Oh, that's a
within-
big, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think tonight,
That's
to
not
give you
even something We
information,
took up even at our last meeting.
yeah, this is just to give you information.
Okay, so
And you can direct us to bring something back.
we can't give Julia
Any direction.
direction, is what I'm trying to say.
You
She's-
can get, if you want to follow up and have a further discussion or have staff bring something
You can
back
ask-
to you.
No, I'm sorry. Julia has been tasked, correct me if I'm
That-
wrong,
That was.
to come to us and have us tell her what we want to do. And we can't do that because we don't have any information.
You can ask Julia to provide more information from Accra, or ask Accra to provide.
From our next meeting.
Yeah, and
I will
maybe,
bring back what.
Yeah, just let them know.
was proceeded. Yeah.
and if there's a viable plan to maintain the program, the group, maybe.
To reestablish it would be very difficult. So to make sure that we understand what it can do for the cities and for the region as a whole before we fold it up, that's really all we ask. That we
So
discuss it thoroughly.
we might need 15 minutes on the next agenda for each of us to come with some information about what are the programs that we hear our constituents saying they'd really like to keep and why, so that we could have a short, concise conversation about
Until November.
whenever that would be, yeah. At some point, I mean, if that's, I mean, I don't know what those programs are.
When is your next meeting?
October 28th. It's after your guys' next meeting.
So it would go on November.
So the board would have to be willing to wait to get information from the city.
We have a meeting October 20th, so we could talk about it before. But you probably won't have much more information. right?
Yeah,
I won't have any more new information on the 20th. Yeah, because if we're not meeting till the 28th.
and they're not asking you for our input on what matters, what programs matter to us at this point.
That,
No, they're prepared to vote.
Yeah.
On the 28th is what they're asking
yeah.
the JPA members, right? Be prepared to come back with what you want to say. And whether it's, we're not ready to vote this out is a perfectly acceptable stance. If you don't have
And we
enough
may just
information to
wanna do
fold it,
that.
you don't need to.
Just hold off the vote after the 28th.
We'll go to all the city councils between now and the ACRA board meeting and the Board of Supervisors meeting and just let everybody know that there is another solution other than voting to close it. And yes, it is the easiest or the fastest one, but it isn't going to serve our community
Right.
in the best way.
Julia, do you have what you need from us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's-
Good night. Mayor and council member reports.
Believe you.
Anybody? City attorney's report. Future agenda items. Information and correspondence. Are we going to do the closed sessions tonight or?
Let's do one of them. It'll be quick, but I want you guys to be updated.
Okay, so we're going to go into closed session. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
I just want to make clear, that that is not the message that I was sent to bring back to the city.